The Wandering Soul Planet. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 276 Virus Army. Sure enough, a miracle finally happened. Before long, each fragment completed its task accurately, allowing Feifei to control this virus cloud like controlling his own body. Now Feifei can let this virus cloud with millions of viruses go wherever he wants and do whatever he wants. He has truly achieved using it freely, just like using an arm. Gradually, Feifei seemed to be able to see that the shape of the viruses in the virus cloud he controlled was nothing special. Some of them looked like ordinary coronavirus pneumonia viruses, that is, they looked like mines on the outside, a round sphere, but covered with dozens of tentacles. Now, Feifei has actually changed from the original solar system, Earthling, to a microorganism on this alien planet. Don't you think fate is too good at playing tricks on people? However, at this time, Feifei was very happy and even thought of the nursery rhyme The Girl Picking Mushrooms. The little girl picking mushrooms, carrying a large bamboo basket, walked barefoot in the early morning through the forest and hills. She picked the most mushrooms, so many that they were countless like the stars. She picked the biggest mushrooms, as big as this small umbrella filling the basket. Ta la 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 la, ta la. Tall, 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 tall. We viruses are gods of war. There is no way to stop us from entering cells. We have many skills and can get through by cheating. Hi. Doesn't this mean that the army of viruses that Feifei is in is going to attack this fox now? But this fox seems to be completely unaware and is just standing there stupidly. Feifei immediately thought that this might be his subordinates when he was alive, most likely one of the two foxes that were sent out to collect herbs. In other words, the virus that killed Honkser is now going to kill her subordinates. Can Feifei not go? I'm afraid not. Unless he doesn't want to live. Viruses rely on the genetic DNA of cells to replicate themselves and prolong their lifespan. To put it bluntly, they are a parasite and cannot survive alone. It seems that Feifei can only survive in this way like other viruses. Not long after, the army of viruses entered the lungs of the unfortunate fox through its nostrils and mouth, and gathered on the surface of its lung cells. At this time, the fox's immune system has sounded the alarm, and it has produced more and more antibodies. Y-shaped proteins and white blood cells are like brave and tenacious warriors, rushing towards the army of viruses from all directions, surrounding tens of thousands of viruses. And a battle of phagocytosis and anti-phagocytosis has begun. A white blood cell is like a huge white tank. One virus after another is attached and entangled by antibodies and cannot escape. Large pieces of viruses are easily crushed and eaten by white blood cells. For the first time in the microscopic world, seeing such a fierce battle scene, as a veteran in the macroscopic world, Feifei can't help but feel cold and frightened. He doesn't want to participate in this battle that is very unfair to him. However, he can't help but want to hide in the fox's lung cells. Only in this way can he avoid a sudden and unexpected encounter. So how can he break into the cell? The situation is quite serious. No mistakes, one post, one content, one book, one bar, 1-6, 1 9, 1 book, 1 bar, 1 look. If the antibodies and white blood cells kill all the virus clouds around him, then his virus cloud will be unable to escape. Although Feifei was anxious, he had a feeling, little virus, a lot of troubles, the situation around him was bad, little virus, it's really not good, the enemy is coming, run away quickly. Enemies came one by one, and the little virus was anxious to jump. It was particularly important to disguise as nutrients and get through. Groups of enemy troops came, and the little virus was anxious to hang himself, trick the cell door open as soon as possible to make the enemy fall into the trap. Little virus, a lot of troubles, only cheating can make it better. One day, bad luck, all efforts will be over. What to do? Since Feifei controlled this virus cloud, it seems that the conscious function of the virus has basically fallen asleep, and everything depends on Feifei to give instructions. However, Feifei is the first time in his life to make a virus, and he doesn't know much about the function of the virus. He just thinks that he must first find a way to get into the cell. How can he get in? Now it seems that there is only one way to go, which is to cheat in. Soon, he found the gate of the cell, so he let each virus under his control find an entrance to a cell. Everything was ready, just waiting for him to issue an order, the order to trick the cell gate open. At this time, Feifei suddenly remembered a nursery rhyme, which was an old nursery rhyme. Little white rabbit, big bad wolf, little rabbit, open the door, open it quickly, I want to come in. Little white rabbit, if you don't open it, don't open it. Mommy is not back, and I won't open it for anyone to come. White rabbit mom, little rabbit, open the door, open it quickly, I want to come in. Little white rabbit, open it, I will open it. Mommy is back, I will open the door. Chapter 277 Intracellular. So Feifei pretended to be the white rabbit mother, holding back her voice, imitating a female voice, and said in a baby voice, little rabbit, open the door, open it quickly, I want to come in. She called 3 times without any response, but she seemed to hear a voice coming from the cell door, don't open it, don't open it, don't open it until Dad comes back, no one will open it. Then, another voice sounded from inside, the code is wrong, we must not open the door. Feifei was shocked, wow. It turned out that it was not the mother, but the father. Hey. I didn't do this in vain. It's not easy to pretend to be a father, I am a real man. Isn't this easy? Thinking of this, Feifei said it again in the tone of an adult male, and of course it was the voice of the male fox, little rabbit, open the door, open it quickly, I want to come in. At this time, a voice that surprised him finally came from the cell gate, the code is right. Please insert a key into the keyhole and use the key to open the door. It turns out that there is another procedure. It seems that it is not easy to enter this cell gate, which is probably more difficult than entering the bank vault or in the macroscopic world. Not only must the code match, but also the key must be matched. Fortunately, I guessed it right, it was really lucky. The next step is whether the key is right. The so-called key is at the top of the virus's antennae. In fact, it is called fibrils in medicine, but it is called antennae for easy understanding. Just insert it into the keyhole of the cell gate and rotate it left or right to see whether it can open the cell gate. Unexpectedly, 99.9% of the millions of viruses controlled by Feifei were not qualified to be inserted into the keyhole, and could not open the door. Instead, they triggered the alarm system of the cell gate, and immediately sent out a distress signal. A large number of antibodies and white blood cells swarmed from all directions and launched a fierce attack on the Feifei virus that could not enter. Feifei knew that it would be futile even if he fought hard now, so he had to give up and gather all his souls into the 1,000th of the virus that had entered the cell. Only about 2,000 viruses entered the cell body. In this way, Feifei also saw the scene inside the cell at this time, which surprised him very much. The viruses that mixed into the cell were regarded as important nutrients by the cell and surrounded by a protein. These proteins pinch out a part of the cell membrane from the cell membrane, wrapped the virus, and then transported the nutrients they thought to the depths of the cell. Feifei felt a great contrast. The cell generally regarded all substances outside the cell as enemies or dangerous elements, strictly guarded them, and strictly prohibited them from entering. Once you enter, you will be treated as a guest and warmly received. Just when Feifei was complacent and thought that everything was fine, unexpectedly, the virus wrapped in the cell membrane was transported to a place called endosome sorting station. This endosome sorting station is responsible for distinguishing the substances sent in and deciding which part of the cell to transport them to. In this process, they usually have to decompose the substances. The inner wall of the sorting station is equipped with a special protein pump to absorb special atoms, making the interior of the endosome acidic, and decomposing large nutrients into small molecules for easy transportation and absorption. When he heard that his viruses were going to be decomposed by the acidic proteins in the sorting station, he was shocked and said, "These viruses that have finally broken through the barrier will probably be decomposed by these acidic substances soon, so won't the huge sacrifice I made before be in vain?" Suddenly, something happened that Feifei didn't expect. Although the outer shell of the virus has been easily dissolved by these acids, the time-tested virus will not surrender so quickly. Instead, it cleverly uses this opportunity. The dissolution of the antennae, fibers, on the outer shell of the virus releases a protein hidden inside the virus. Its function is to dissolve the endosomal membrane that locks the virus. Instead of being dissolved, the virus breaks out of the siege and escapes successfully. From this point, it can be seen that the virus controlled by Feifei knows the properties of the cell very well and is definitely well prepared. However, in this process, there are also many viruses that fail to escape, and they are directly dissolved by acidic proteins. Therefore, it can be said that Feifei's worries just now are not unreasonable. At this moment, the virus is actually still far from success. Without antennae, fibers, the virus wanders around, and 90% of the viruses stop and give up halfway. Now Feifei only has about 200 or 300 viruses left, and they are still tenaciously advancing towards the final destination. However, in this long arms race, the virus has learned a skill, and its structure can be attached to the motor protein of the cell. Motor proteins are responsible for transporting raw materials in cells, which are chemicals and basic substances necessary for cell survival. However, they did not expect that the substances they transported this time would kill them in the near future. So we can say that motor proteins are the pig teammates of all proteins in the cell body, even more stupid than Zubejian Journey to the West. Thanks to the help of this pig teammate, the virus rode on its back, on the cytoskeleton composed of proteins, like a long viaduct, and the virus marched along this skeleton, viaduct, to the cell nucleus. So far, the virus has invaded the fox's body for about an hour. However, it still has an hour to go to the cell nucleus. At this time, the fox's body has not given up resistance, so the virus will not have an easy journey in the next hour. No mistake, one post, one content, 1619, one book, one bar. Sure enough, along the cytoskeleton viaduct, there is a special defense protein, which is searching for any substance carrying antibodies, adsorbing on it, and summoning proteasomes to crush the virus and recycle proteins. At this moment, this fierce war is being played out in the cell. Many viruses are found and killed by defense proteins without paying attention. Feifei estimates that about 180 viruses have disappeared on the way to the nucleus in the cell. Normally, with the cooperation of defense proteins and proteases, the army of viruses can be wiped out within a few hours. However, even if there is only one fish that slips through the net, the virus may turn defeat into victory. 2 hours after the virus invaded, the virus inevitably encountered a new problem: how to enter the cell nucleus. We know that the cell nucleus is located in the center of the cell. At the channel entering the cell nucleus, there are protein tentacles responsible for screening and transporting substances into the cell nucleus. Billions of information and instructions pass through these channels to complete the information transmission between cells and DNA. Here, the role of protein tentacles is important, and it has the unshirkable responsibility of keeping a good gate. Chapter 278, Life and Death Contest. Because not everything can pass through these channels, only substances that are correctly identified by the protein tentacles are allowed to pass. However, the virus is like a cunning fox, and is best at deception. A forged pass is hidden on the outer shell of the virus, but the virus is too large to pass through these channels. At this time, the powerful and brainless motor protein once again plays its role as a pig teammate. In the tearing with the protein tentacles, the virus is torn into pieces, and the DNA successfully enters the cell nucleus. Some viruses have DNA as their genetic material, and some are RNA. There are 23,000 genes in animal cells, but only 40 genes in viruses, but these 40 genes alone can sometimes make cells overwhelmed and even change the fate of the animal body. The virus can't help but show its deception to the cell again and again. It understands animal cells and is good at taking advantage of cell weaknesses. At this moment, a trick of the virus, a bigger deception, the final life and death contest is coming. The DNA manufacturing machine of the cell has no way to tell the cell which is the virus and which is its own gene. They blindly copy the death code from the virus, and these instructions are executed in the cell nucleus. And this time can be said to be the happiest moment for the viruses. They seem to be singing loudly. There is a garden in the cell nucleus, and the flowers in the garden are so bright. DNA is copying us, and every virus is laughing. Wahaha, wahaha, every virus is laughing. New virus, come quickly. Old virus, don't hide away. Hold hands and sing that song, how happy our life is. Wahaha, wahaha, how happy our life is. The virus began to command the cell to produce viruses frantically, and Feifei was about to turn defeat into victory and win the final victory. Unexpectedly, at this time, the cell finally realized the invasion of the virus, and the pig-like team at the motor protein woke up. It shouted and used up its last bit of strength to transmit a distress message containing a virus fragment to the outside of the cell membrane, sending out the final distress signal to the outside world. If the patrolling white blood cells happen to recognize the distress signal, they will destroy the infected cell and the virus inside. However, if the white blood cells do not find the distress signal, the cells will be infected one after another. At this time, some motor proteins send out distress signals before dying, but more motor proteins do not have time to send the final distress message to the outside of the cell until they die. Only a few patrolling white blood cells outside the cell receive the distress signal and launch a rescue operation, killing the infected cell and the virus inside. However, 24 hours after the virus infection, the virus almost completely controls the cell. As the normal nutrient supply of the cell stops, the cell begins to decay, but the army of viruses is still constantly replicating itself and ready to go. At the beginning, it may just be a sneeze, a cough, or a call of the fox. 48 hours after the virus invasion, the body still has no obvious symptoms. We usually call this period of time the incubation period. However, before the virus begins its journey, it needs to overcome two problems. The army of viruses is trapped in the nuclear membrane and cell membrane inside the solid cell. The ribosomes outside the cell nucleus begin to produce destructive proteins under the instructions of the virus, attacking the cell membrane and cytoskeleton, and the cell begins to collapse. At this time, the virus begins to attack the nuclear membrane again. A substance called pneumonia virus death protein begins to weaken the nuclear membrane, and the cell nucleus is finally ruptured by the surging virus. In just 48 hours, the cell is powerless to save the situation. The virus surges to other surrounding tissues like a flood until it spreads throughout the body. For cells, the war is over. However, for animals, the war has just begun. While the virus is busy invading cells, the fox's body synthesizes a large number of modified antibodies and returns to the battlefield. Although there are many antibodies, they still cannot stop all viruses. However, they still have reinforcements white blood cells. The motor cells finally vindicated themselves at the end of their lives, and they sent the most important alarm signal to the white blood cells. A large number of white blood cells are gathering at the invaded cells and engulfing the viruses. These patrolling white blood cells are very responsible in their work. They are desperately looking for viruses everywhere, as if they are humming a song while searching, looking for viruses. I found a small virus, I will kill you, you are welcome, let me see if you are still poisonous. Looking for viruses, I found a small virus, I will kill you, disinfect, I will make all viruses surrender. However, in order to ensure that there is no risk, white blood cells will indiscriminately attack all cells that may be infected. This overreaction will cause great and even fatal trouble to the fox's body. A large amount of tissue fluid will quickly block the lungs in order to transport white blood cells to the lungs, and finally cause the fox to be unable to breathe and die. This time, Feifei's virus army won the final victory after a thrilling life and death battle, and also took the life of Hongxer's subordinates. No mistake, one song, one post, one content, one book, one forum, 1619, one book. Due to hunger and cold, coupled with extremely low mood, the fox's immune system could not play its due role at all. However, under normal circumstances, the war between viruses and cells mostly ends with a failure of the virus. Between cells and viruses, it is only for survival, there is no right or wrong, The wrong ones are the retrograde angels. They broke the natural laws of nature. This time, it was only because of the special circumstances that Feifei's virus cloud won by chance. After winning, Feifei's mood can be described as mixed, but from then on he had a new understanding of viruses. After appreciating the power of the virus, he couldn't help but sigh for the virus in his heart. I am a small virus, although I am as fat as a pig, but I am not confused at all. My life is the most difficult, and I can't count the disasters and disasters. Only parasitism is comfortable. My enemy is the cell, and I have a trick to defeat the enemy, and it's so coquettish to get through. As long as I enter the cell nucleus, my trick is the most unethical. Replicating the virus is like a thief. Who said that the virus is meaningless? It will make you sick and have no temper. Even if you have a good body, you will fall to the ground if you are not careful. The cell saw that I was not convinced. So I gave the cell a plan. As long as the cell is not careful, it will die later. How will Feifei survive next? At this moment, Feifei is in a very complicated mood. She never expected that after reincarnating into the virus cloud, she would have to fight a death struggle with her subordinates and comrades in her previous life, and it would be in the microscopic world. This really makes Feifei feel very melancholy and depressed. Chapter 279 Virus Crisis. Feifei also composed an nursery rhyme for the two enemies, viruses and cells. Viruses fly, the dark night sky hangs low, and the bright stars follow. Sister cell, who are you missing? The stars in the sky are crying, and the cells on the ground are withering. Viruses fly, don't be sad, don't cry, little brother virus, come here, in groups and pairs. Brother white blood cells, come quickly, virus invasion, save me, although I am almost finished now, don't be bothered by comprehensive virus disinfection. When the fox died, many corpse-eating bacteria crowded in from outside and had a fierce conflict with Feifei's virus cloud. These bacteria are simply behemoths to viruses, and viruses are not their opponents at all. The new enemies are more vicious than the old ones. One by one, the viruses were quickly eliminated. At present, the viruses can only escape, and have almost no power to fight back. The situation suddenly became critical. It seems that this place cannot be stayed for long. Feifei made a decisive decision to lead the virus cloud to evacuate this right and wrong place. After passing through the fox's throat, mouth, and finally rushing out into the air of the macroscopic world, Feifei's virus cloud only had tens of thousands of viruses left. 1 or 2 million viruses went in, but only tens of thousands came out, which was a big loss. If Feifei's virus cloud participated in this battle, it would be difficult to survive suspended in the air. After all, viruses do not have their own reproduction system and can only rely on other biological cells to reproduce and survive. At this time, Feifei's virus cloud returned to the starting point, and the number dropped sharply, and it was already in a precarious situation. What should I do next? Feifei was at a loss and had no way out. As time passed slowly, Feifei found that the activity of the virus cloud he controlled was gradually decreasing. What should I do? Is he going to plunder another life in the macroscopic world? Feifei couldn't help thinking so in his heart. Now there is no army of viruses around, and his virus cloud can't hitch a ride to attack another animal cell body again. Just when Feifei was panicking and helpless, suddenly, Feifei found a virus cloud that was at least 100 times larger than his virus cloud slowly floating from the left front. Compared with his original virus cloud, it was only bigger. This scene made Feifei ecstatic. Yes, just control this big virus cloud and wait for it to get closer. However, things were not as simple as Feifei thought. Seeing that this big virus cloud was about to approach Feifei's small virus cloud, it suddenly turned a corner and drifted to the left rear of Feifei. What happened? Could it be that the cooked duck flew away? Feifei was very anxious when he saw it. He hurriedly drove the virus cloud to chase it, but the big virus cloud seemed to float faster, making the distance between Feifei and it get bigger and bigger. This made Feifei very anxious. It seems that another way must be found. Suddenly, Feifei used his trump card using the soul concentration and microparticle method. He subdivided the souls gathered on these tens of thousands of viruses by 100 times, and then used these very fine souls to chase and control the big virus cloud that was about to escape from Feifei. Sure enough, this trick worked. Feifei's millions of very fine souls caught up with the big virus cloud in a blink of an eye, and quickly controlled almost all the individual small viruses in the virus cloud. Not long after, Feifei felt through the fine soul that this was a virus completely different from the coronavirus he had controlled at the beginning, and its appearance was somewhat similar to that of ordinary adenovirus. No wonder this big adenovirus cloud was a little different from the previous coronavirus cloud. Not only was it faster, but its trajectory was very strange and floating. Feifei wanted to observe where it was going, so he did not control its actions. Not long after, Feifei understood where this adenovirus cloud was going. A blurry but gradually clear giant appeared in front of him. It looked like a dog. Wow, it was going to attack the dog. However, the dog seemed listless and lay on the ground weakly. For the sake of survival, Feifei did not stop the attack. It was estimated that even if Feifei did not attack, the dog might not live long. Feifei controlled this adenovirus cloud and passed through the dog's mouth, throat, trachea, bronchi, and finally, into the dog's lungs. No mistakes, one post, one content, 1619, one book, one bar. Take a look. The scene in front of Feifei was shocking and horrible. At this time, there were corpses of white blood cells, T cells, red blood cells and various viruses everywhere. The dog's lungs had been riddled with holes and eroded. It was estimated that the owner of this body would die soon. At that time, a large number of corpse-eating bacteria would swarm in. Now Feifei must hurry up and lead the army of viruses to break into the cell nucleus as much as possible, replicate their own DNA, and continuously strengthen their own strength. However, something unexpected happened. Feifei suddenly found that the actual situation was worse than he had imagined. Now almost 99% of the lung cells here have decayed, and only 1% of the cells are still lingering and making their last dying struggle. Almost all the cell gates were opened, and the gatekeepers were either killed or fled. Feifei's army of viruses marched straight in, without being checked, blocked or resisted. The viruses wandered and floated freely in the cells. Soon, Feifei taught the viruses to sing a song, virus song. What does a virus do? How does a virus live? What will a virus do on the way to the cell nucleus? The experience of a virus, the dream of a virus. What are you doing? What are you going to do? A virus sang a song, a virus danced, and the virus said that if it enters the cell nucleus, it will be my birthday. Time passed as fast as an arrow, and it was discovered by the motor protein, carrying a virus and leaving a pig teammate. To enter the cell nucleus, the pig teammate must help. From then on, the virus entered heaven, happy and glorious. As he sang, Feifei immediately realized that in order to enter the cell nucleus, he had to ask the pig teammate, the motor protein, for help. So he passed down the order, requiring each virus to do its best to find the motor cell. Although the extremely cunning virus tried its best, it still didn't find many pig teammates. It turned out that the dog had been attacked fiercely by a large group of coronavirus clouds before, and most of the motor proteins were deceived and died of shame, due to cell body failure, loss of nutrition supply, and thus exhaustion and death. Chapter 280, Player Unknown's Battlegrounds. The current situation is very critical for Feifei's virus army. If he doesn't hurry up to replicate the virus, once the dog dies and the corpse-eating bacteria army arrives, his virus cloud may not be able to get out. Unexpectedly, just when Feifei was at a loss, things took a new turn. An adenovirus that didn't know how to live or die ignorantly drilled into the innermost part of the cell and found that there was another layer of cells under the dead or dying cells, and most of the cells under this layer were still relatively active. It seems that there is only one last ray of hope. If he doesn't take action, his virus army will soon wither and die like flowers. Only by using this last chance to replicate new and active viruses can he have sufficient vitality to escape from here before the powerful enemy arrives. Before thinking about it, Feifei immediately issued an order, ordering the entire army to advance to the deepest part of the cell with all their strength. But even so, something happened that made Feifei unable to cope with it. It turned out that since the cells where Feifei's virus army was now almost dead, the motor protein, which was the pig teammate and the best means of transportation, naturally disappeared. It was like there was no car to sit in, and everyone could only walk on their own two legs. In this way, although the speed was reduced a lot, at the same time, a lot of resistance was reduced, because the enemy in the cell, the defense protein, also died with the death of the cell. Everything seems to be the same, and it is divided into two, and there must be good and bad. However, Feifei was very dissatisfied with the slow-marching speed of the virus army. He was worried that if it continued like this, before the virus cloud reached the bottom cells, the dog would die, and the bottom cells would wither, and then he would work in vain, and it also meant that his virus army would never get out again. What to do? Now, speed is the cost, and time is life. Suddenly, a flash of inspiration flashed in Feifei's mind, and he had an idea and came up with a plan. That's right, let's do it. So, Feifei, the main soul, gave the latest instructions to the millions of tiny souls that controlled the tiny viruses, asking the viruses to immediately abandon the slow-drifting translation method in the past and adopt the rolling method of rolling forward, that is, learning to roll forward like the wheels of a car. Since the viruses look almost like a ball, it is not difficult for them to adopt this new way of moving. It is very suitable, and the forward speed is increased several times, even several times, completely exceeding the speed of the motor protein carrying them. Faced with such an effect, Feifei was really unexpected and could not help but be a little overjoyed. However, it was not the time to be happy yet. The most urgent thing was to rush to the bottom cells as soon as possible. But at this time, Feifei received a report from the tiny soul in front, saying that although many viruses have learned to roll forward, they can't grasp the direction. Some are not rolling forward but rolling to the left and right, and asked how to solve this problem. It's just a pig, Feifei couldn't help but curse, and then he thought about how to solve this problem. After carefully observing the dead cells, Feifei found that the protein skeleton, viaduct, in the cells was still there. Could the virus army roll along these viaducts toward the cell nucleus, and then roll along the viaducts to the bottom cells after reaching the cell nucleus? Maybe this method is feasible, and there is no better way than this at present. Feifei hurriedly passed on this new idea and ordered the execution. After a while, this new method was proved to be very practical and correct, and more than 90% of the viruses were able to complete the task smoothly, which made Feifei feel relieved. About half an hour later, the virus army arrived at the gate of the bottom cell. It seems that we have to find a way to trick the cell gate open again. I don't know if the method of tricking the fox cell gate last time is useful. After all, there is still a difference between wild dogs and foxes. Whether it is useful or not, how can you know if you don't try it? Feifei pretended to be White Rabbit Dad and imitated the voice of a male dog, saying in a muffled voice, "Little rabbit, open the door, open it quickly, I want to come in." After calling 3 or 4 times without any response, she seemed to hear a voice coming from the cell door. "Don't open it, don't open it, don't open it until Mom comes back, no one will open it." Then, another voice sounded from inside. "The code is wrong, we can't open the door." Feifei was startled. Hey! It turned out that it was not the dad, but the mom. How could I be wrong again? Wow! I understand, this dog may have been raised by a female dog, and only loves its mother. Maybe it is the youngest son or grandson of the female dog Tiankui. Who knows? Pretending to be a dog mother is not a very difficult thing for Feifei, who knows thousands of animal languages. Then, Feifei said again in the tone of the mother dog, "Little bunny, open the door, open it quickly, I want to come in." At this time, the voice that Feifei expected finally came from the cell gate. "The code is right. Please insert a key into the keyhole and use the key to open the door. This is natural, brother, I understand." Soon, almost all the virus army rushed into the bottom cell. The following process was basically the same as last time, so I won't talk about it here. However, in order to speed up the replication process, Feifei asked the viruses to use various lies to deceive the pig teammates in the cell, motor proteins, so that they can speed up the transportation speed and get the viruses into the cell nucleus as soon as possible to buy precious time. No mistake, 1 post, 1 content, 1619, 1 book, 1 bar. As expected, this trick worked very well. In such a critical situation, 20% of Feifei's virus army broke into the cell nucleus, which was twice as much as last time. Next, the viruses copied their genes frantically and recklessly. Large groups of new adenoviruses were copied, showing off their power and eager to move. The newly born viruses even held hands and sang the happy virus song. "There is a garden in the cell nucleus, and the flowers in the garden are so bright. DNA is copying us, and every virus is happy. Wahaha, wahaha, every virus is happy. New viruses, come quickly, and old viruses, don't hide away. Hand in hand, sing that song, how happy our life is. Wahaha, Wow, how happy our life is. Suddenly, Feifei felt that the vitality of the cell was rapidly declining, and immediately ordered, copy the shells that attack the cell nucleus to prepare for the new viruses to rush out of the cell nucleus. One by one, special protein shells were produced, which made the viruses ecstatic, and they happily danced hand in hand. However, as the life characteristics of the dog quickly disappeared, the vitality of the bottom cells became weaker and weaker, and the speed of shell production gradually stopped. Chapter 281, Escape from the Death Point. Fire now. Ready, 3, 2, 1, fire. Feifei gave the order. One by one, row by row, batch by batch of shells bombarded the cell nuclear membrane, but as the vitality of the bottom cells gradually decreased until it disappeared, the firing speed of these shells became slower and slower, until they could not be fired at all. What to do? The cell nuclear membrane has not exploded yet, and the army of viruses cannot rush out. Inspiration flashed again, and Feifei had an idea. Use our virus's own body as a shell to smash the cell nuclear membrane and kill a bloody way out. So he ordered the newly born most energetic viruses to violently impact the cell nuclear membrane. Under the fierce impact of one after another, group after group of newborn viruses, the cell nuclear membrane was finally cracked open, and then it was knocked open with a boom, split into countless fragments, flying in all directions, and large groups of viruses rushed out of the cell nucleus and floated outside. Hurry up, all viruses, listen to the order, immediately roll outward along the viaduct, without any mistakes, Feifei hurriedly ordered when she saw that the viruses had almost rushed out of the cell nuclear membrane. In this way, Feifei's army of new viruses quickly rushed out of the surface of the dog's lung cells and headed for the dog's bronchi, but they met a corpse-eating bacteria rushing in from the outside at the bronchi. A strong smell of decay and ferocity came to my face, which was disgusting. This is a group of microorganisms that survive by devouring animal corpses. They are much more advanced and shameful than viruses. Almost every time, they run to snatch the victory results of the virus after the virus kills the animal body. This is really intolerable. The brave will win when they meet on a narrow road. Although our viruses are much smaller than bacteria, we are the new force, new and energetic viruses, and the enemy, the corpse-eating bacteria, are now hungry and weak. Why should we be afraid of them? Thinking of this, Feifei's courage increased immediately, and he immediately ordered to attack the bacteria. All rush forward, and those who disobeyed the order would be killed without mercy. Then, groups of viruses rushed to the corpse-eating bacteria without hesitation. They gathered dozens or hundreds of viruses to attack a bacterium, one after another. The enemy was frightened by the sudden blow, at a loss, and finally had to lose. Then, the enemy started the second wave, the third wave, the fourth wave, the fifth wave, and even the 13th wave of counterattacks, all of which were repelled by Feifei's brave and fearless adenovirus army. Finally, the enemy had to retreat temporarily, and taking this opportunity, Feifei ordered the entire army to pursue the victory, beat the enemy in one go, and break out of the siege. In this way, the corpse-eating bacteria fled in front, and the adenovirus army chased behind, and the bacteria were many times larger than the virus and much faster. After a while, the enemy disappeared. Feifei ordered the whole army to speed up and roll forward. After passing through the dog's bronchi, trachea, throat, and mouth, they finally encountered a large group of densely packed enemies in the mouth. Those starving corpse-eating bacteria were actually deployed here, ready to fight a decisive battle with Feifei's virus army. Seeing this, Feifei couldn't help but be frightened and immediately stopped the virus army that was constantly rolling forward. Then, after a careful look, he initially estimated that the enemy army was about 300,000 to 500,000, while our virus army was estimated to be about 10 million. Although the enemy's size is hundreds or thousands of times larger than ours, the enemy is a tired and hungry army and has just suffered a defeat. Although our army is small in size, it is a new force, full of energy, strong in combat effectiveness, and has just won a great victory. Although it has lost millions of viruses, it has not yet reached the point of breaking bones. The most important thing now is to find the enemy's soft spots and stab the enemy's vital points, so as to achieve the effect of two tails breaking 1,000 pounds, thereby reducing unnecessary casualties of our army. While thinking, Feifei suddenly found that the defense in the middle of the back of the enemy's position was particularly tight, and the defense on the left and right sides was not very strict, but it was hiding a strong offensive situation. A tactic of making a feint to the east and attacking the west immediately emerged. Feifei immediately mobilized all the main forces, about 5 million new viruses that had just won a victory, were full of fighting spirit and energy, and attacked the middle of the back of the enemy at a lightning-fast rolling speed. Other viruses were on standby and moved at random. As expected, Feifei's move surprised the enemy, shocked them, and caught them off guard, disrupting the enemy's carefully arranged formation. The enemy hurriedly mobilized the bacteria around to come to the rescue. In this way, the left and right sides of the enemy's position were weakened to varying degrees, and the defensive ability was weakened. Feifei immediately seized this loophole of the enemy and led all the remaining viruses to rush to the enemy's position on the right. The reason for choosing this side was, of course, because the enemy's right position had the weakest defense and was the easiest to break through. This kind of making a feint to the east and attacking the west tactic of mobilizing the enemy and then avoiding the real and attacking the fake has been often used on battlefields throughout the ages. It is not uncommon, but for the bacterial army with little IQ, it is an incredible trick. No mistakes. Under the fierce attack of Feifei's virus army's wonderful tactics, the enemy's formation was disrupted and panicked. They could not organize an effective attack at all. The enemy now only thought about how to resist the rapid frontal attack from the virus army and protect their central nervous system, the headquarters. As for other attacks and side defenses, they could not take care of them. Feifei took advantage of the enemy's panic and quickly led his adenovirus army to break through the enemy's encirclement, rushed out of the dead dog's mouth, and came into the air. Then he ordered the most powerful part of the virus that was desperately attacking the enemy's headquarters to withdraw from the battle immediately and go outside the dead dog's mouth to meet Feifei's virus army. Finally, Feifei's strongest fresh force finally rushed out and joined the virus army waiting outside. Although they lost more than half of their strength, Feifei was still very pleased. After all, everyone successfully escaped from the deadly hole and escaped from the tiger's mouth. In general, it was still a cause for celebration. Now Feifei has at least 8 million adenovirus troops in his hands. He is really strong and powerful. As for the tens of thousands of coronavirus pneumonia viruses that were left at the beginning, they have not yet floated here to join Feifei due to their slow movements and gradually declining vitality. Seeing this situation, Feifei decided to take back the tiny souls on this group of incurable viruses and let them fend for themselves. In other words, from now on, Feifei began to concentrate on managing his 8 million adenovirus troops, worrying about this army of viruses that have strong attack power, short vitality, and are so tiny that they cannot be seen by the naked eye. If you want this army of viruses to continue to survive, you must find a new target for attack, the lungs of a living animal. Chapter 282 New Goal. Now, Feifei's adenoviruses have just escaped the clutches of the corpse-eating bacteria, so they are naturally in a good mood. All of them are happy and smiling, and soon they sang the happy virus song. I am a small virus under Feifei's careful teaching word by word. I am a small virus, don't cry even if I kill you, because we are enemies. I am anxious if you are not in pain. We have the most viruses, as if the stars are countless, and our viruses are the worst, so bad that even the devil is unfamiliar with them. Hi, 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 hi. Cell healthcare is sung every year, and viruses will not be fooled by you. They will cheat if they are cunning, but they will be doomed if they are lax in defense. As time passed slowly, the army of viruses led by Feifei actually reveled for a day and a night near the mouth of the dead dog. Gradually, the viruses also consumed a lot of physical strength, and finally had to calm down, start sleeping, and enter hibernation. Viruses are also microorganisms. In many places, they are similar to animals and also need to rest. However, since Feifei can freely decompose, condense, implant and extract souls in the microscopic world, he is very free and does not need to rest. As long as he does not want to sleep, he can extract the soul from the virus body at any time. In this way, he can have more time to think about problems, such as how to live in the future. He now feels that if he always lives in the way of viruses, he always feels a little boring. Otherwise, try the way of survival of bacteria. However, when thinking of bacteria, Feifei can't help but think of eating corpses bacteria, and then think of the pungent smell of rancidity and disgust. Wow. No, now Feifei has become a microorganism, without a nose or sense of smell, and can't smell anything. However, as a human and an animal, he has long cultivated his inherent thinking about fragrance and odor, making it difficult for him to get rid of this emotional distress for a while. Not only is he not happy with the current way of survival of viruses, but he also hates the rotten and smelly lifestyle of eating corpses bacteria, so he can only look for other bacteria. As the saying goes, if the West is not bright, the East will be bright. If I am not welcome here, I will find another place to stay. There are so many bacteria in nature, are you still afraid of not finding them? Feifei extracted tiny souls from many sleeping virus bodies, and flew out to a radius of dozens of meters to find new types of bacteria. I never expected that there were hundreds of thousands of bacteria nearby, some big, some small, some more, some less, and their names were so strange, such as poor me, I'm too tender, cream fart, scared me, don't mess with me, I want to cry, stop it, the cat is struggling, fat to scream, itchy feet, hands shaking, waist shaking, twist 3 times, I'm the best, I'm not greedy, shameless, flatterer, mouse proud, shameless, old naughty boy, little goblin, can't afford to lose and happy bird and other strange names, countless. Faced with so many bacteria in various shapes and forms, Feifei felt headache, which was too much, right? Is this microscopic world more colorful and interesting than the macroscopic world? Why don't we choose some bacteria that look good to play with? I can't waste my hard-earned trip to the microscopic world. Which bacteria should I choose first? Let's follow the principle of first come, first served and inspect them one by one. First of all, Feifei came to investigate the first kind of bacteria named poor me. He found that this kind of bacteria is indeed very pitiful. Not only is it very small, it is only a few times larger than ordinary viruses, which is also relatively rare. What is more surprising is that they adopt the humiliating strategy of submitting to any kind of bacteria an infinite tolerance, and they specifically look for the leftovers and even feces discarded by other kinds of bacteria to eat. They are extremely pitiful and lowly, even worse than beggars in the world. Feifei will certainly not try to be this kind of bacteria, which hurts his self-esteem. The second kind of bacteria is called I am too young. It turns out that they are a group of people who are not focused on doing anything, clumsy, make mistakes from time to time, and even turn good things into bad things. They are completely a group of useless little wastes that can't do anything well, but have more trouble than good things. However, their self-reproduction ability is still good. Even so, Feifei can't have any interest in this kind of waste bacteria. The third type of bacteria is called cream farts. This is a small white luminous bacterium that looks like cream. It likes to play around, fight and cause trouble. However, due to its small size, which is about 1/10 of the size of ordinary bacteria, even if it likes to make trouble, it will not cause much loss and impact to everyone. Everyone just hates them for getting in the way, so they are called cream farts and treated as farts. Feifei is even less interested in this type of bacteria. He has no time to do such boring things. The fourth type of bacteria is called scared to pee. Obviously, this is a very timid bacterium. Although its size is about the same as that of ordinary bacteria, it is pitifully timid. As long as a large bacterium farts, it will immediately hide under the buttocks of other large bacteria to seek refuge. Even if it sees several small bacteria like cream farts that are much smaller than it running towards it, sometimes it is afraid to hide. It is really cowardly. Such a useless bacterium is better not to do it. The fifth type of bacteria is called don't mess with me. It is a large and overbearing bacteria, equivalent to the ancient local bullies. It is extremely arrogant and overbearing, bullying the weak and claiming to be the king. Although it has a strong reproductive ability, Feifei is too lazy to take a second look at such a bully bacteria and disdains it. Chapter 283, Bacterial Life. The sixth kind of bacteria is called I want to cry, a kind of sentimental bacteria that cries sadly at any time. Although bacteria are single-celled and parthenogenetic, we still want to classify this kind of bacteria as female microorganisms. After all, only women, especially girls, like to cry. Can I be a bacterium that cries at any time? As a teenager Feifei who rarely cries, this is obviously not a good option, so I have to give up. The seventh kind of bacteria is called stop it, a kind of bacteria that likes to help when seeing injustice and fight for injustice and likes to meddle in other people's affairs. This is a kind of bacteria with the spirit of a chivalrous hero in the world. Although it is not tall and strong, it is strong and flexible, and often makes those seemingly powerful bacteria very difficult and headache. This bacterium is good, Feifei likes it very much, so let's start with it. However, after a careful study, Feifei found a problem, that is, the number of such night bacteria is very small, about 1 in 1,000 or even 10,000 bacteria. This number is really pitiful. If they encounter a powerful enemy in the future, they will not even have a helper. They will be weak and will definitely suffer in the future, and their reproduction ability is relatively weak. In this case, let's continue to look for another large and reliable ally, who can lend a hand to stop quickly at a critical moment. In this way, Feifei had to continue to investigate other bacteria. The 8th kind of bacteria is called Maofei, a kind of bacteria with shiny cat body patterns all over its body, a head similar to a cat's head, but it is very strenuous to walk. In short, this is a kind of pampered bacteria, with elegant manners, but like a bound-foot old lady who can't walk, we can also call it young lady bacteria. This kind of bacteria with no fighting power is definitely not considered by Feifei. The 9th type of bacteria is called fat and screaming. Obviously, this is a fat bacteria that is so fat that it screams when walking. Its reproduction ability is average. This type of bacteria is also a waste bacteria, and it will not cause Feifei to worry about it. The 10th type of bacteria is called itchy feet. This is a very strange-looking bacteria. Some of them are like ants, with 6 legs. The back 4 legs touch the ground together, and they really play the role of feet, while the front 2 legs are often raised, almost playing the role of hands. When it walks, it naturally touches the ground with 6 legs, and when it rests, not only the front 2 legs are often raised, but also the middle 2 legs are raised. The front 2 legs will scratch the middle 2 legs from time to time, as if scratching the feet. It is very funny. This is a bacteria with mysophobia or psychological problems. Obviously, this is also a bacteria with flaws. Feifei is not very satisfied with it, so she will not consider it. The 11th bacterium is called hand trembling. It is a bacterium with 8 legs. The first 2 legs are always raised, just like 2 hands. Whether walking or resting, it not only raises its hands, but also keeps shaking its hands like an old man who has suffered a stroke. It seems that this is also a sick bacterium. It is either a show-off or really has some disease. Of course, sick bacteria are not considered by Feifei. The 12th bacterium is called waist trembling. It is a bacterium with a long body, thin waist and big butt. It looks like a human but not a human, and it looks like a snake but not a snake. Every time it walks, its waist trembles, but it does not tremble when it rests on the spot. It is really a very strange bacterium. Feifei will not pay attention to such a bacterium for the time being. The 13th bacterium is called twist 3 twists. This bacterium looks not much different from the previous one, but it is thinner and longer, and it also has the image of a beautiful snake. However, this bacterium likes to twist its waist. It twists its waist a few times whether it has something to do or not. When walking, its waist twists even more happily. In fact, we can also call it twisting Yanko or dancing girl, and it is obviously not the type that Feifei wants. The 14th bacterium is called I am the best, a bacterium that looks very well behaved and behaves even better. It always obeys the instructions of other bacteria. It does whatever people tell it to do without any complaints. It is really a good kid. Who doesn't like this kind of little thing with this kind of personality? Unfortunately, it has a fatal flaw, that is, it is small in size and has poor combat effectiveness. In the end, Feifei had to give it up with great pain. The 15th bacterium is called I am not greedy, a bacterium that looks very honest but is very greedy and sleepy, but it often pretends to be a serious and pitiful appearance, making others mistakenly think that it is a good bacterium that performs well and works hard. Feifei would not consider this kind of bacteria that is full of bad water but pretends to be an honest person at all. The 16th bacterium is called shameless, which is a bacterium that specializes in doing bad things, such as stealing or forcibly occupying other people's food. After being caught or even beaten by everyone, it will cry and wail, a bit like human thieves and female thieves. Feifei would not pay much attention to such bad bacteria. The 17th kind of bacteria is called horse flatterer. As the name suggests, this kind of bacteria must be a bacteria that flatters its superiors. Do microorganisms have such high intelligence and emotional intelligence? Why not? Haven't you seen that viruses, which are hundreds or thousands of times smaller than bacteria, know how to make their own keys to open the cell door, and then use the full motor protein to tear open the virus membrane on their bodies, so that the virus replication instructions can smoothly enter the cell nucleus to complete the task of replicating the virus. This trick of covering the sky and the sea fully demonstrates how superb the wisdom of viruses is, even compared with humans. So, as bacteria that are much larger than viruses, it doesn't take much wisdom to often help its superiors deliver food or clean up the dirt on their superiors, some of which are caused by the small bacteria cream fart. In the microscopic world, which is more colorful than the macroscopic world, bacteria like horse flatterer that can flatter others definitely exist. If you don't believe it, I can bet with you. Unfortunately, Feifei doesn't want such a cute bacterium, just because the fighting power of this bacterium is not very strong. The 18th bacterium is called mouse proud. Obviously, this bacterium is not a good bird. It is good at digging holes and stealing things like a mouse. Of course. It does not dig holes in the mud, but digs holes in the cell membrane of a certain plant, sneaks in to steal the nutritious food inside, and sometimes steals the food of other bacteria. After stealing things, it is still proud. Therefore, it is called mouse proud. It is a habitual thief and a professional thief. Feifei will never consider this kind of bacteria. The 19th bacterium is called bullapi, a bacterium with very strange behavior. It works diligently and works hard, like a revolutionary old ox, but it also has shortcomings. If it does something wrong, it will never admit it. Not only will it not admit it, but it will also blame others. This seems to be a common problem of some of us humans. Bacteria also have it, and it is estimated that it may exist in all living things. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 284 Controlling Bacteria. This is obviously a defect, but Neulapi has strong fighting power and reproduction ability, but its brain is not very good, so it can be used barely. Feifei classified it as one of the key objects of attention. The 20th bacteria is called Old Naughty Boy. This is a bacteria that likes to play, and the older it is, the more it likes to play. It has no sense of responsibility to do serious things. Sometimes it even plays to the point of forgetting to eat and sleep. It can be seen that it is really dedicated in playing. It is precisely because this type of bacteria is too playful that it cannot even guarantee eating and sleeping, which leads to serious malnutrition in its body, and also makes its reproduction ability not high and the number is relatively small. It is obviously not considered by Feifei. The 21st bacteria is called Little Fairy. This is an incredible bacteria. It is slender and thin. It likes to strike and pretend in front of other bacteria, and likes to entangle other bacteria at every turn. We think it is more appropriate to call it Little Goblin. Because this bacterium is so absorbed in the great diplomatic cause that it forgets to eat and sleep, its reproduction capacity is not high, and its fighting capacity is even weaker. It is also ignored. The 22nd bacterium is called Can't Afford to Lose, a bacterium that loves gambling but can't afford to lose. I never thought that in the microscopic world, there are also gamblers and rogues among these microorganisms. So what is going on? It turns out that some large bacteria often bully small bacteria. They often catch small bacteria to play and have fun, and let small bacteria fight each other wrestling, similar to human wrestling, competitions. The large bacteria place bets before the game, and the winner of the game will get a lot of food rewards. This is very similar to the cockfighting and cricket fighting of our ancient Chinese people, but this bacterium named Can't Afford to Lose will cheat once it loses the bet. Not only will it fall to the ground and cry and act like a spoiled child, but it will also fight for the prizes of the winner. It has no gambling ethics at all, and it is almost the same every time. Fortunately, there are not many of these bacteria, which means that their reproductive ability is not strong, otherwise, the microscopic world must be in chaos. Obviously, this type of bacteria is also out of the selection. The 23rd bacterium is called Happy Bird, a bacterium that likes loneliness and freedom, does its own thing and is not constrained. It is not very sociable and likes to be alone. It is of average size and average reproductive ability. It seems that Feifei has to give up on it. Finally, after comprehensive consideration, Feifei decided to choose Stop Quickly and Neulapi for investment. No, to be precise, it is soul control, that is, to transfer Feifei's soul transplanted on the virus to these two bacteria. From then on, Feifei completely bid farewell to his virus career and started his bacterial life. In this way, he collected all those souls that were divided into millions of tiny pieces and redistributed them to the central nervous system of the two bacteria, Stop and Eulapi, so as to control their behavior and serve Feifei's own bacteria career. As for the minor problems of the Eulapi bacteria, it is easy to solve for Feifei and it is not a problem. Now, the key question is, what does Feifei want to do in this microscopic world? Is it to stir up a mess, or to create a peaceful world? In fact, the microscopic world is also very important compared to the macroscopic world. If the microscopic world is in chaos, it will inevitably affect the macroscopic world, such as causing the outbreak of influenza and plague in the macroscopic world. In view of this very correct idea, Feifei plans to start by being a good policeman in the microscopic world, and decides to establish a powerful bacterial police force first. Feifei released many tiny souls, which were spread over a radius of hundreds of meters. When he saw the two bacteria, Stop and Euz, he transplanted his souls to them and controlled them. In about half a day, he controlled 2,000 Stop bacteria and 1.5 million Euz bacteria. 2 days later, he controlled 8,600 Stop bacteria and 6.3 million Euz bacteria. A powerful microbial police force was established under Feifei's control, and a unique bacterial bandit suppression and rebellion suppression operation was about to begin in the microscopic world. After repeated consideration, Feifei decided to form 4,000 police patrol teams, each team led by 2 Stop bacteria and 1,000 Euz bacteria, and the remaining 600 Stop bacteria would lead the remaining 2.3 million Euz bacteria. At this time, Feifei discovered another very important problem. After he subdivided his soul into millions of tiny souls, he felt exhausted and mentally exhausted. He had too much information to process and deal with every moment. He was so busy that even if he had 100 or 1,000 heads, he couldn't handle it. It was too tiring. So Feifei planned to train the large number of bullshit bacteria a little bit, then take back their souls and gather them all on the Stop bacteria. Stop would control the bullshit bacteria. In this way, Feifei would be much more relaxed. Moreover, Feifei decided to adopt the strategy of turning a blind eye to the 4,000 police patrol teams. He would only come out to take control when they were in danger. Usually, his soul was basically in a semi-dormant state in these thousands of Stop bacteria. Now he planned to go all out and concentrate on training the remaining 600 Stop bacteria, training them all into special combat members with strong martial arts and capable of fighting tough battles, and then let them train the 2.3 million ragged bacteria into a special police force. Now, Feifei felt particularly relaxed and energetic, and he was very interested in training his first special police force in the microscopic world. Naturally, most microorganisms are not as smart as humans and animals in the macroscopic world. Of course, it is not ruled out that high IQ microorganisms are smarter than mentally retarded humans and animals. Here we only talk about the general situation. The IQ of most Stop bacteria is not very high. They are a bit like the reckless warriors in ancient times, but they have the chivalrous spirit of drawing swords to help when seeing injustice on the road. However, after Feifei controlled the central nervous system of these cute bacteria, they became smarter and soon taught them to master the 2 basic fighting methods of attack and defense, and then let them integrate and apply them flexibly. Next, Feifei taught them a set of intermediate martial arts moves, which they also mastered quickly. As for advanced or even top-level martial arts, Feifei himself did not know them, so he had to give up. It's not a mistake to read a book. Not long after, these 600 Stop It Now bacteria trained by Feifei acted as instructors, and taught the 2.3 million Euz bacteria the fighting methods and kung fu they had just learned. In this way, Feifei didn't have to work hard anymore. Chapter 285 Bacteria Police. It is said that after Feifei sent out 4,000 police patrol teams to the microscopic world, social order was greatly improved wherever they went. Those habitual thieves such as Shameless and Rat Satisfied were also restrained to a great extent. Even those hooligans who were used to bullying the weak and don't mess with any saw Feifei's police patrol team coming, and either took a detour or honestly did not dare to cause trouble. After all, this police patrol team of thousands of bacteria is not something that these dozens or hundreds of crooked bacteria can afford to offend. However, there is no absolute thing in this world, and this truth also applies to the microscopic world. Things happened unexpectedly like this. That morning, A police patrol team was patrolling on a busy commodity trading street inhabited by many microorganisms. As usual, they walked in a swaggering manner, looking around as they walked, as if they were not patrolling, but traveling and shopping. Suddenly, a riot appeared in front of them. First, various noisy sounds were heard continuously, and then many miscellaneous third-rate and ninth-class bacteria came out from all directions to watch the excitement. The surroundings were full of bacteria that did not mind watching the excitement and making trouble. Seeing such a noisy and abnormal situation, they immediately realized that something must have happened ahead. This police patrol team, which was specifically responsible for public security, naturally rushed forward without any hesitation, and shouted at the same time, "Police, get out of the way, get out of the way, what do you want to do? Gathering to make trouble is illegal." They squeezed out a path from the group of bacteria watching. "What, police? What are police?" a very big bacterium asked in surprise. "What are the police? We have never had such a thing here, you don't know, do you?" The patrol captain Cat's Eyes, both the captain and the deputy captain are stop it bacteria, explained patiently, "From now on, we police will be responsible for maintaining social order. Whoever doesn't obey us will be arrested and put in jail. Boy, do you understand? Hey. I was wondering why I am so unlucky today," the big guy said indifferently. "It turns out that the guy who usually likes to meddle in other people's business is actually shaking today. Come on, boy, if you have the guts, try to catch me." "Grandpa, you kid belong to the don't mess with any bacteria, right?" the deputy captain of the patrol team Duck Tongue warned sternly. "In the past, you bullied the weak and did evil things, and I could ignore it, but from now on, if you dare to do it again, we will settle the old and new accounts together. So, are you going to be serious this time?" The big guy still didn't quite believe it, and asked tentatively. "Of course, we will keep our word this time. No mercy," Captain Cat's Eyes said firmly. Suddenly, a voice came from the crowd of bacteria. "Police uncle, please help us small vendors. These gangsters not only confiscated our precious goods without reason, but also beat us up. Now we have no living materials, and the whole family can't survive. Please come and save us, police uncles. Good boy, bad habits are hard to change, and you are causing trouble and breaking the law again." Captain Cat's Eyes couldn't help but get excited. Today he can finally show off his skills. He has been feeling very uncomfortable these days, and said, "Now it's good, let's see what else you can say. Brothers, come on, arrest all the don't mess with any bacteria here, and put them in the black jail." I don't think they dare to be so rampant. Many scoundrel bacteria immediately rushed forward from behind the captain and deputy captain. When they saw the big don't mess with any bacteria, they used membrane ropes made of tough and strong cell membranes to tie up these dozens of bandit bullies one by one. Unexpectedly, one of the don't mess with any bacteria refused to accept it and cried out, "It's unfair. We are wronged. We can't be blamed. It's these low-class people who stole our treasures. This time we just want to get our own things back. Please, police uncle, make the decision for us kind and honest citizens. You are also kind and honest." It really makes everyone laugh. The deputy captain Ducktongue didn't believe it at all. "Tell me, what treasure did they steal from you?" "Dandruff, that's human dandruff, very precious, and priceless," the don't mess with any bacteria who cried out for injustice boasted proudly. At this time, Feifei, the human soul in the head of Cat Eyes, completely woke up from a semi-dormant state. He was very surprised. Could it be that the dandruff I had when I was a human, in the microscopic world, has become a treasure? It's really interesting. I want to hear what this guy has to say. Thinking of this, Cat Eyes said seriously, "Then tell me, why is human dandruff a treasure? You are ignorant. You may not believe it." This guy shook his head and said confidently, "Human dandruff can not only make us healthy and prolong our lives, but also enhance our reproductive ability and make our babies healthier and more energetic. If you don't believe it, I will eat human dandruff today, and I can give birth to a lot of beautiful and healthy babies tomorrow night. Is it really that magical?" Cat Eyes and Duck Tongue, all Feifei's souls, were a little surprised. "Of course, I can swear to the human gods, I will never lie, otherwise I will be struck by lightning." This aggrieved don't mess with any bacteria continued. "Don't believe him, he is deceiving you," the poor vendor suddenly interrupted. "These dandruffs are not human dandruffs at all, in fact, they are sparrow dandruffs. Police officer, think about it. There are no humans within hundreds or thousands of miles. Where does human dandruff come from? This is a group of bandits who want to rob us of the goods we have worked so hard to transport, and they deliberately framed us like this. Don't believe him, good boy. In broad daylight, you spread rumors and cause trouble in public, oppress vendors, rob property, and beat innocent people. You have committed multiple crimes at the same time. What else can you say? You are ready to spend the rest of your life in jail. Brothers, take them all away. Cat's Eyes was very angry at this villain who lied without blushing, and immediately waved his hand to let his subordinates take these hateful guys away immediately. Although these guys were not convinced and complained, Cat's Eyes ignored them and told them to return the fake human dandruff that they don't mess with any bacteria had snatched to the poor vendors. The chivalrous act of this police patrol team won the cheers of the audience, and everyone applauded to express their praise. From then on, those microorganisms that always liked to do evil and harm the village had to restrain themselves and no longer dared to do bad things in broad daylight. The microscopic world here ushered in a period of vigorous development and prosperity. Chapter 286, Suppressing Bandits with Bacteria. Everyone only knows that there are bandits in human society who rob houses, but few people know that there are also bandits in the animal world who come out to rob, and even fewer people know that there are also bandits in the microscopic world who form gangs and rob everywhere. From the story above, we are surprised to find that in the bacterial world, there are not only petty thieves like Shameless and Rat Proud, but also bully bacteria like Don't Mess With Me who rob like a robber. It seems to have fulfilled the old saying people die for money and birds die for food. In the bacterial world, since there are thieves and bullies, there must be bandits and outlaws. Ever since Feifei pioneered the regular patrols of the police and the bacterial society, social security has been greatly improved. Ordinary bacteria are all overjoyed and have crawled out of their homes to feel the prosperity and bustle of the market. Some are strolling around, some are selling goods, some are buying goods, and some are dancing. Most of the small vendors selling goods are bird and insect feces, vomit, and dandruff. Ordinary bacteria who buy things usually tear off a layer of their cell wall membrane as the equivalent of currency for exchange. If they want to buy valuable goods, such as animal feces and dandruff, they must use one or more of their own asexually reproduced new bacteria as collateral, which is equivalent to the ancients selling children, selling them to be slave bacteria. But just when the bacteria were enjoying peace and happiness, suddenly, from all directions, hundreds of thousands of strange bacteria of different sizes, in the shape of chickens and ducks, cats and dogs, tigers and leopards, cattle and sheep, red deer, mice and rabbits, turtles, venomous snakes, crocodiles, dinosaurs, birds, spiders, scorpions, mantises, etc., gathered in a prosperous town in the northwest. They were hideous and scary, baring their teeth and claws, and swooped down on the town aggressively, scaring the civilian bacteria out of their wits, hiding in all directions, and fleeing everywhere. This was a group of legendary bandit bacteria that often robbed and plundered. In fact, they were not stationed nearby, but in the more remote northwest corner. Just because they heard that this place had suddenly become prosperous and lively recently, they thought it was a chance to make a fortune, so they rushed over from that distant place to rob. It seems that for this robbery, this group of bacterial bandits is still very dedicated. In fact, the actual situation is not like this, but because a few days ago, a northwest wind suddenly blew from their place, just blowing them to the vicinity of this prosperous town. Yesterday, they finally gathered the team that was scattered by the strong wind, and heard that the nearby town is very good, thinking that there must be a lot of money to be made here, so early this morning, they rushed over to rob. And there happened to be a Feifei police patrol team in this town. When they encountered such an emergency, they did not panic, but lined up to welcome the bandits. This is certainly not a line to welcome, but a line to stop them from coming to make trouble. Although these bacterial bandits are a group of rabble, they cannot withstand their huge number. The patrol team used only 1,000 bacteria to stop the other side's hundreds of thousands of vicious bacteria. Obviously, it was a bit overestimating its own strength. In addition, Feifei did not have time to train these police patrol teams in combat, and their combat effectiveness was not strong. At this time, rushing up was indeed a bit like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. Sure enough, in the blink of an eye, the patrol team was defeated by this group of bandits. Only a few dozen cowscum escaped, and the rest were either captured or killed. This small police patrol team disappeared. However, the captain and deputy captain of this patrol team were controlled by Feifei's subtle soul. Feifei immediately learned about the situation here, and soon led his newly formed 2.3 million special police troops, riding on the dust particles in the air, using the airflow in the air, and adopting an S-shaped roundabout flight route to fly over. In less than an hour, they surrounded the bandits. Looking at this overwhelming force that covered the sky and covered the sky, the bandits were so scared that their scalps were numb and their hands and feet were trembling. They had no idea of resisting stubbornly. In the blink of an eye, they all raised their hands and surrendered obediently. Feifei did not say a word and executed all the leaders of this group of bacterial bandits on the spot, and the rest of the bandits were all arrested and sent to hard labor. This group of bacterial bandits is so abominable. They have always been rampant and do many evil things to harm the people. It is not enough to kill them to appease the anger of the people. It is a pity to kill them all, mainly because it wastes resources. Kill dozens or hundreds of leaders, and send the other minions to do hard labor, such as finding and collecting food that bacteria like to eat, digging holes to build houses for bacteria, etc. Through this incident, Feifei felt that the police patrol team was too weak and its combat effectiveness was too poor, so he decided to train all patrol teams for a period of time like training special police forces, and then merge every 10 police patrol teams into one patrol team, but still have 2 stop bacteria in charge, and the remaining 18 stop bacteria will join the plainclothes police investigation team, 2 in a group, hiding among ordinary bacteria, and secretly conducting investigation activities. The newly established police investigation team is only responsible for investigation and reporting, not for public security patrols. The reorganized police patrol team does not patrol at fixed times and locations as before, but chooses to be stationed in towns with the largest number and density of bacteria, ready to be dispatched at any time to suppress major abnormal situations such as social riots and disturbances. If the scope is small and the impact is not great, such as dozens or hundreds of vandals and troublemakers, then send 1 or 2,000 bacteria police to solve it. If it is a group of hundreds, thousands, or even thousands of people making trouble, then dispatch more police and even the entire patrol team. If it is a riot involving tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of people, then report to the special police force to come to reinforce. In short, different problems should be treated differently, specific problems should be analyzed specifically, and they should be flexible. That afternoon, Feifei's bacterial police investigation team was suddenly attacked by dozens of unknown bacterial bandits in the southwest of the 19 border towns under the jurisdiction of the police patrol team. The total number of these fierce bandits reached 1 or 2 million, while the total number of patrol teams stationed in these 19 towns was only 70,000. Many patrol teams had to govern 2 or 3 towns at the same time. The current situation is extremely critical. Feifei immediately dispatched his 2.3 million bacterial special police troops to rush to the crisis site, but now the air seemed to be stationary and could not use the airflow to fly to reinforce. No mistakes, 1 post, 1 content, 1 6, 1 9, 1 book, 1 bar. Look. What should I do? What should I do? It was like Choyu in the 3 Kingdoms, who was ready to burn Chibi but could not borrow the east wind. This is everything is ready except the east wind. But just when he was at a loss, a slight breeze suddenly blew in the sky, and the air began to flow. Feifei couldn't help but say happily, God will not let me down. Chapter 287, Military Expansion and War Preparation. As the airflow accelerated, Feifei's 2.3 million bacteria special police troops were gradually all swept into the air by a strange demon wind, making everyone feel like they were flying in the clouds, and it made people more dizzy than the last time. Floating, turning, floating, turning. Feifei suddenly found that something was wrong. The direction of the troops' flight in the air was wrong. Now it seemed that they were not flying to where they should go, but in the opposite direction. What should he do? Feifei boarded the dust particles in the air with the troops, floating, flowing, and rotating in the air, and was also turned dizzy. How did he know that the direction was wrong? Because Feifei's subdivided soul was also placed on the heads of the captains and deputy captains of the police patrol teams in the border towns where the incidents occurred, just like modern people use the internet and mobile phones to communicate, so it is easy to know that the flight direction is wrong, because the distance between each other is getting farther and farther. Now Feifei seemed like an ant on a hot pot, anxious and helpless. Bang, bang, bang. Howee, howee. The sound suddenly became loud, and raindrops fell from the sky. More and more raindrops. In the blink of an eye, it rained heavily. A drop of rain can spray hundreds of tiny droplets, each of which carries thousands of bacteria into the air, and then splashes into the air, encounters the moist dust suspended in the air, and then sticks to it. However, most bacteria dance with the heavy rain. Not long after, the ground was filled with water like a pool, which was like a vast ocean to bacteria. However, the rainwater actually flowed silently towards the accident site. It is estimated that the terrain there is lower, while the terrain here is higher, which caused this phenomenon. It seems that Feifei's special police team can no longer take the plane, and can only take the ship. Similarly, this heavy rain also affected the robbery of the millions of bacterial bandits on the border, making these robbers miserable. However, the terrain here is lower than the surrounding areas, and the rainwater stops flowing here. The water naturally rises higher and higher, making these guys all soaked in the rain. Some float on the water, sinking and sinking with the waves. The bandits who were just baring their teeth and claws and looking arrogant, in the blink of an eye, turned into poor guys who were struggling and crying in the water. The doomsday is coming. Not long after, a large number of flying special police troops drifted down from the upstream. These specially trained bacterial warriors are still energetic and high-spirited even when they are soaked in water, and can at least exert 80% of their combat effectiveness. Seeing the bacterial bandits who are also soaked in the water but in a miserable state, the special police are all very happy. As long as they float to their side, they will grab these bandits who have basically lost their combat effectiveness and beat them up. It is really beating the drowning dog, which is not an exaggeration at all. Grandpa, spare me. Grandpa, spare me. Good man, spare me. There was a sudden sound, but Feifei hated this group of special police so much at this moment that he did not intend to let them go. Instead, he planned to kill the chicken to scare the monkey so that the surrounding bacterial bandits would never dare to attack again. Looking at the heavy rain in front of him, Feifei couldn't help but have an idea. He decided to take advantage of this opportunity of heavy rain to wipe out this group of bandits in one fell swoop. So, he ordered these bacterial bandits to be executed on the spot, regardless of whether they begged for mercy or not. This time, the bacterial bandit suppression had just ended, and Feifei's bacterial special police force had lost more than one-third, mainly because they were dispersed by the heavy rain. The rain hit the ground, causing water droplets to splash into the air and stick to dust and fine water vapor, thus making the bacterial team scattered. Fortunately, most of the bacteria eventually fell into the water, so Feifei's loss was not too great. However, with so many bacteria soaked in cold water for a long time, some of them were frozen to death, some lost their vitality and were on the verge of death, and the rest were also suffering in the water. How much everyone hoped that the rain would stop and the sun would shine. It turned out that the special police force controlled by Feifei were all bacteria that were more heat-resistant but not cold-resistant. Obviously, this sudden heavy rain was fatal to those heat-resistant but not cold-resistant bacteria. As expected, when the rain really stopped and the sky cleared 2 days later, more than half of the bacteria died again, and now only less than one-fifth of the original number remained. It seems that from the beginning, Feifei forgot that bacteria have another important function, self-reproduction. It was not until he found that the number of his bacterial troops had decreased sharply that he realized the seriousness of the matter and could not help but think of the urgency of bacterial reproduction. So, he hurriedly ordered the remaining 300,000 or 400,000 bacteria to quickly look for food around and prepare to reproduce new bacteria in large quantities after eating and drinking. Faced with this seemingly reasonable and somewhat helpless order, about one-third of the bacteria could only smile bitterly, because they could no longer execute Feifei's order, not for anything else, but because they had lost their fertility, not because they had undergone family planning sterilization surgery, but because they were too old or sick, their bodies were not good, and they could no longer reproduce the next generation. After Feifei learned about this situation, he announced that these special police with no fertility would be retired, and some food would be distributed, and they would no longer care about them, and focus on the remaining approximately 250,000 fertile bacteria, so that they could eat and drink well, give birth to more and better successors for the revolutionary cause. This group of guys really worked hard and did not disappoint Feifei. Some gave birth to more than 10, some gave birth to more than 20, and some gave birth to 30, and even more than 50. In the end, after a rough count, Feifei was delighted to find that his bacterial team had expanded to as many as 7.8 million. Next, Feifei will vigorously train these newborns. After all, the life cycle of bacteria is very short. The stop-it-quickly bacteria is only 2 months, and the cow scum bacteria is less than 3 months. No mistakes. Just read the content of the first 6 to 9 book. After half a month of careful cultivation and serious training, and eliminating a group of unqualified old, weak, sick and disabled bacteria, Feifei has a special police force of 5 million bacteria. This new batch of bacteria is more powerful and will powerful than the previous batch, equivalent to the young people in their 20s on Earth in our solar system, young and strong. Subsequently, this new force suppressed bandits several times under Feifei's command, making them more mature and experienced. At the same time, Feifei did not give up the renewal of the 4 million police patrol team, and also carried out some self-reproduction on them. Now the team has been expanded to 25 million. At the same time, a new bacterial reserve army of 15 million has been formed to prevent other bacterial populations from large-scale invasion of the local area. In short, Feifei learned a lesson from the last accidental incident and is now fully prepared to respond to emergencies at any time. This is also called being prepared for any eventuality. Chapter 288, Going Abroad to Participate in the War. As expected, Feifei's advanced preparation finally came in handy. Half a month later, a very powerful bacterial empire named Akuta suddenly emerged at the northwest border. They attacked cities and plundered, committing all kinds of evil. Wherever they passed, corpses were everywhere and blood flowed like a river. They were extremely vicious and rampant. Although the Akuta Empire had not yet invaded, it caused panic in Feifei's jurisdiction, and the people were in a panic and the military was unstable. Faced with such a dangerous situation, Feifei asked the bacterial leaders of each unit to stop quickly to appease and stabilize the morale of the Neulapi bacterial unit, and called on the entire army to carry out large-scale military training activities. All recruits and veterans, police, special police and reserve troops must all participate in this massive campaign. Anyone who cheats and cuts corners will be punished accordingly. The situation is getting worse day by day. Unfavorable news keeps coming. It's said that the Akuta bacteria army destroyed this small bacteria country, and then it's said that the Akuta Empire army destroyed that bacteria kingdom. After a while, it's said that the Akuta bacteria army is attacking a big bacteria country, as if this bacteria army is getting braver and stronger with each battle. It seems that we can't wait any longer. Waiting like this is tantamount to waiting for death. It's time to consider taking the initiative. Looking at the current situation, Feifei has repeatedly considered and weighed the pros and cons and decided to attack with all his strength. The troops are divided into 2 groups. One group consists of 5 million special police troops and 10 million reserve troops. They will march towards the big bacteria country that the Akuta Empire is attacking vigorously, outflank the enemy's rear, and let the enemy be attacked from both sides. The other group, composed of the remaining 5 million reserve troops and 10 million police, will sneak attack the enemy's lair, the homeland of the Akuta invading army, and strive to destroy this ambitious bacteria empire that is invading and expanding everywhere. Obviously, the bacterial empire of Akuta had never expected Feifei to intervene in foreign affairs, and was completely unprepared in advance, and was caught off guard by Feifei. Feifei's volunteer army going abroad, a battle-hardened bacterial army, suddenly surrounded the enemy from behind, rushed and attacked fiercely, and beat the enemy to a state of panic. Feifei took the opportunity to lead the army to pursue the victory, killing all the way, and defeated the 20 million invading troops who were attacking the capital of another country, thus relieving the siege of the bacterial superpower. In this battle, Feifei eliminated 6.8 million enemy troops, captured 8 million prisoners, and seized countless food and other materials, and only lost 1.5 million of his own troops, which can be said to be a great victory. Afterwards, through the method of eliminating the weak and retaining the strong, about 5 million young and strong bacteria were selected from the 8 million prisoners of war to join the combat sequence as mercenaries to supplement the losses of the army. At the same time, Feifei used her subtle soul to enter the heads of the officers and commanders among the prisoners, thereby controlling these leaders and letting them control the mercenaries on her behalf. Feifei's other army also made smooth progress. Since the enemy mobilized the whole country to attack the bacterial power, the country was empty and the defense force was very weak. Only 5 to 6 million local bacterial troops were left to take charge of local security, which was not as good as Feifei's jurisdiction, where there were at least 15 million police troops left. This army almost drove straight in, unstoppable, and smoothly reached the enemy's capital, and stationed around it. All the surrounding towns and cities had been captured in advance, and then the enemy's capital was surrounded, preparing to attack the city. Naturally, they were happy to help them out. Look, the king of the bacteria country, Andal, warmly invited Feifei, the leader of the rescue army that came from the sky cat's eyes, who had just taken office as the leader of this army, to enter the city, and held a state banquet to entertain him. One of the dishes in the state banquet was sparrow feces, white loose feces, but all the distinguished guests at the table were eager to eat this dish, regarded it as a rare delicacy, and were proud to eat it. Cat's Eyes, who has Feifei's soul, couldn't help but shake his head and smile bitterly. It was completely because bacteria were different from humans. Bacteria regarded human and animal excrement as delicacies, which was a very normal thing. For example, the E. coli in the human intestine survives by eating human feces. There are too many such examples, so I won't list them one by one. When Cat's Eyes asked the king of that country whether there were other acute enemy troops in their country, Andal smiled bitterly and said, "To be honest, we are a country of bacteria. There are many prosperous cities in the country, at least 70 or 80. We set up Kyoto on the border, which actually means the emperor guards the country's gate. Although there are 10 million imperial guards guarding Kyoto, because there has been no war for a long time and they are not well trained, most of the soldiers have developed the bad habit of loving leisure and hating work. The troops have long lost their combat effectiveness, and the defense of the capital is also a name only. If your army had not come to rescue us in time, our city would be in danger. As for whether there are still enemy troops in the country, I don't know, because we are besieged by the enemy, and the news inside cannot get out, and the outside cannot get in." Suddenly, a guard rushed in and reported, "Your Majesty, urgent news, there are 30 or 40 large cities in the north, west and central parts of the country in distress, and some have been captured by the enemy." "How many enemy troops are there in total?" Andal asked hurriedly. "Report the specific numbers." "Probably, the total number is between 80 million and 100 million, the guard reported with his head down. "The specific number is difficult to count because the war situation changes rapidly." "Okay, there's nothing for you to do. Go down." Andal waved to the guard anxiously, paused, turned his head, looked at Cat's Eyes and said, "I hope your country can continue to save our country from danger." After a moment of silence, Feifei's soul said through the mouth of Cat's Eyes, "Excuse me, where's the most important or largest city in your country, and how many troops are there defending it?" "There's a largest city in each of the east, south, west, north and center. The most important city is the largest city in the central part. There are about 15 million soldiers defending it, and it is also the wartime capital of our country. Now the crown prince is in charge there. It seems that the city we must rescue immediately must be there. I will set off now and lead the troops there. I also ask the king to prepare sufficient food and other necessary materials for us." "No doubt, I will. I couldn't ask for more." "I couldn't ask for more," Andal agreed with a smile. "In addition, please appoint an important minister or the crown prince to stay by my side to coordinate and direct related matters." Cat's Eye seemed to remember something and said so. "That little six, come here. Follow this gentleman to the front line to coordinate military affairs." Andal pointed to a young bacterian next to him, and then introduced him to Cat's Eyes. "This is my youngest son, Lao Liu, and one of my most beloved sons. As for the crown prince who sits in Hongdu, he is my eldest son." Chapter 289 On the March. 2 days later, Feifei's bacteria army had expanded to about 20 million, of which 13.5 million were the original troops, 5 million were mercenaries, and another 1.5 million were the country's imperial guards who escorted food and grass. Although the special police with the strongest combat effectiveness had lost 500,000 in their first battle abroad, they were still the first to rush to the battle to support the neighboring country's Hongdu, which is also called good steel should be used on the blade. At the same time, this can also play a role in taking the lead and boosting the morale of the entire army. Then, there were 4 million reserve troops, 5 million mercenaries, 1.5 million imperial guards who transported food, and finally 5 million reserve troops. As the sun moved westward and the mountain was about to set, the wind started to blow and the air flowed faster and faster. Suddenly, a large dark cloud drifted from the horizon towards the flying bacteria army. As it got closer and closer, Cat's Eyes found something wrong and immediately ordered the vanguard 450,000 special police troops to quickly board the dust that rose from the ground with a gentle breeze to stop the unexpected enemy. I saw batches of strong bacteria scrambling to board those pieces of dust and fine particles that were like aircraft carriers to them. Almost every fine dust was filled with thousands of bacteria. In theory, it is unlikely that the enemy and us will meet in the air, but today's breeze is strange, sometimes east, sometimes west, sometimes left, and sometimes right. Light breezes, even breezes, in the sky are all gales and hurricanes for bacteria. When the wind blows from the east, the enemy will ride on the dust and drop from the sky to kill into our army's camp. Our army has to resist on the spot, which is very passive and suffers great losses. However, after a while, the west wind blew again in the sky, and our army took the opportunity to board the dust, as big as an aircraft carrier. Some bacteria did not even need to do it deliberately. They would find that the land under their feet suddenly turned into a flying aircraft carrier. At this time, it was natural for our army to pursue the enemy, and the enemy could only defend themselves and had no power to fight back. In this way, the enemy and us fought back and forth as the wind direction changed. It was really exciting and intense. However, our army had an absolute advantage in numbers after all. Not long after, the enemy was defeated and fled. It is estimated that the enemy did not expect the wind to blow in advance, but some of the enemy were blown into the sky by the wind, and when they landed in our army camp on the dust, they took advantage of the chaos to kill a lot. The sky gradually darkened, but the wind was getting stronger and stronger. Finally, only the west wind or northwest wind remained. Cat's Eye immediately ordered the entire army, 20 million bacteria, to board the dust aircraft carrier, take advantage of the west, north, wind, and take the opportunity to kill the enemy camp in front. Taking advantage of the situation and being flexible are the basic qualities of an excellent commander. Feifei seemed to have met this requirement in this encounter and achieved a relatively ideal effect. In this battle, more than 5 million enemies were killed and more than 3 million enemy troops were captured. This aerial encounter also caused our army to lose more than 2.4 million. The main loss here was the grain transport team of this army. The grain transport team of 1.5 million escorted by the country's 6 princes had long been blown away by the breeze overnight, and even the 6 princes themselves disappeared. This is mainly because the bacteria of this country are lighter and have weaker willpower than those of other countries. Because those grain carts are heavier, they were not blown away by the wind, but they were also blown to pieces by the wind. After daybreak, the wind gradually died down. Fortunately, it was only windy and not raining. Otherwise, our army would have suffered much more losses. The various bacterial armies that were scattered by the west, north, wind all night returned to the team one after another. Cat's Eyes regrouped the team, ate and drank enough, and continued to march. In the evening, they came to a canyon and ordered the entire army to camp outside the canyon mouth and camp on the spot to prevent the enemy from setting up an ambush in the canyon. At the same time, a protective wall was built around the barracks. God bless, there was no trouble that night. After daybreak, Cat's Eyes first sent scouts to climb up the cliffs on both sides of the canyon to check if there were any enemy ambushes. In the afternoon, the scouts sent out came back and reported that there was no ambush. Seeing this, Cat's Eyes immediately ordered the entire army to set off immediately, speed up, cross the canyon, and strive to reach another exit of the canyon before midnight. Shortly after midnight, the entire army finally arrived at the designated location, and then they set up camp non-stop and built simple fortifications. After working for a long time, they fell asleep exhausted. When they woke up the next day, the sun had already risen high and was shining on their butts. On this day, Cat's Eyes did not ask everyone to leave immediately, but to rest for a day. After all, everyone was tired for several days and it was time to take a break. However, he did not give up the exploration of the road ahead, and required the scouts to explore the road ahead for a day before returning to report. After the first group of scouts went out for most of the day, in the evening, the second group of scouts was sent to scout in support. Another morning, the second group of scouts came to report that they received a report from the first group of scouts at midnight last night, and immediately ran back to report the situation ahead, saying that there was a very high and big mountain about a day and a night ahead, which could be compared with Kunlun Mountain or the Himalayas. In fact, for humans, it is just a small mound of earth as high as a little finger. For us humans on Earth, It would take at least 10 days or half a month to climb Kunlun Mountain or the Himalayas. But for these battle-hardened superbacteria, 2 or 3 days is enough. Sure enough, 3 days later, Cat's Eyes led the entire army to the top of the mountain. If humans on Earth, solar system, climbed Kunlun Mountain or the Himalayas, they would not only feel extremely cold, but also feel very short of oxygen. However, the bacteria did not feel cold or short of oxygen. This is because the mountain is not really high, but because they themselves are too small. After all, they are just microorganisms that are invisible to human eyes. It is hard to climb up the mountain, but easy to go down the mountain. This is a universal law, and it also applies to the microscopic world. When going down the mountain, Cat's Eyes asked everyone to learn from him, copy the gourd, lie on the ground, and use the principle of free fall to shuttle down easily. No mistakes in one poem, one post, one content, one book, one forum, 1/6, 1/9, one book, one forum, one look. In the blink of an eye, Feifei's army of bacteria, like a waterfall, poured down from the top of the mountain. It took less than an hour for all 17 or 18 million soldiers to get down the mountain. Cat's Eyes quickly asked his subordinates to organize and gather the troops, and then led this huge army of bacteria to continue to move forward to the destination. 5 days later, Feifei's army of bacteria that went abroad to participate in the war was once again blocked by a large number of enemy troops in a relatively flat area. Since the last encounter with the enemy's air interception, these days have been basically smooth sailing, no wind or rain. Good luck. Chapter 290, Feint to the east and attack in the west. It was expected that they would meet the enemy again this time. There was nothing to be surprised about. The total number that was supposed to come would come. It was only a matter of time. Cat's Eyes ordered the army to set up camp on the spot, build fortifications, and be ready for battle. He led the generals to climb up a relatively high mound and began to observe the enemy's formation and investigate the enemy's situation. There were indeed many enemy troops. At first glance, they were boundless. There were enemy barracks everywhere, one after another. A long earth ditch was dug in front of the enemy's camp. Behind the ditch, a wall of neither high nor low was built. A row of enemy soldiers stood on the wall. A guard tower was built at intervals behind the wall. There were several enemy sentries on each guard tower. It seemed that the enemy's formation was obviously defensive rather than offensive. It was possible that the enemy leader received reports from the soldiers who had fled back and learned that they had suffered 2 consecutive defeats, so they did not dare to go into battle rashly. It was a wise move to adopt such a strategy of avoiding battle. Even if there is a dangerous place ahead, Cat's Eyes has to send troops to try it out. Moreover, from the enemy's deployment of troops, there is no strong point. The only way is to send a troop to take the lead and test it to see what conspiracy the enemy has. Since there are mercenaries in hand, there is no need to let his own troops take risks. Cat's Eyes immediately called the highest general of the mercenaries and ordered him to send a vanguard of 500,000 to launch a tentative attack on the enemy's position. The mercenary leader named Aleng looked at the enemy's position in front and did not see any danger, so he nodded and agreed. Even if there were traps and other dangers ahead, he had to agree. However, at this moment, it was found that there seemed to be no great danger ahead, so this dull-headed and showy guy decided to personally lead a suicide squad of 500,000 with the strongest combat effectiveness under his command to take the lead. Soon, Aleng's 500,000 mercenaries vanguard assembled, and then rushed towards the enemy position under Aleng's leadership. In fact, Aleng was not too naive. He did not run in front of the team, but led a small leader under him led 50,000 mercenaries to run in the front, and then led another small leader led 100,000 suicide squads to follow closely, followed by the second and third 100,000 suicide squads. Aleng himself was in the last 150,000 suicide squads, and he was just the rear guard. In a blink of an eye, the suicide squad at the front came to the edge of the long trench dug in front of the enemy's earth wall and stopped. The soldiers at the back of the team did not know the situation in front of the team, so the tragedy happened. The soldiers at the back could not help but push the soldiers in front. In this way, the soldiers standing at the front of the team and close to the trench inevitably fell into the trench, and only screams could be heard one after another. Is it possible that the trench is very deep, and these bacteria soldiers fell very badly and in pain? No. Instead, the enemy placed many long spikes in the trench that were enough to pierce the bodies of these bacteria soldiers. Almost all the soldiers who fell into this trench could not escape the bad luck. Although all the soldiers who fell into the trench screamed, the trench dug by the enemy was relatively deep, and the sound was much weaker when it reached the top. In addition, there were many more bacteria soldiers on the ground than soldiers who fell into the trench, and the hustle and bustle was very noisy, which almost completely drowned out the screams in the trench, causing the tragedy to continue, and they kept pushing and falling. As more and more soldiers fell, the shouting and crying became louder and louder. Gradually, the soldiers at the back of the team found something wrong and began to relax their pushing forward. Unexpectedly, the screams gradually disappeared at this time, and the sound of charging and shouting suddenly sounded, and it became louder and louder. What on earth is going on? It turned out that as more and more soldiers fell into the deep trench, the first soldiers who fell into the trench were pierced to death, and the soldiers who fell later fell on the bodies of the soldiers at the bottom. Because the thorns in the trench were too long, after penetrating the bodies of the soldiers at the bottom, they pierced the bodies of the soldiers at the second layer. At this time, the thorns were not that long, but they were still enough to pierce the bodies of the soldiers, which made the soldiers scream in pain. Therefore, most of the screams were made by the soldiers on the second layer, and most of the soldiers at the bottom died before they could make a sound. However, as more and more soldiers fell into the trench, the number of layers continued to rise, the third layer, the fourth layer, until the ninth layer. The higher they went, the fewer soldiers died. At the 10th layer, the soldiers could easily cross the trench by stepping on the bodies of the soldiers below. After passing through the trench, even if they climbed over the earth wall built by the enemy, and this wall was really not low, it took more than 10 strong bacteria soldiers to build a human ladder to reach the top. However, would the enemy be so happy to let the Suicide Squad build a human ladder to attack the city? Obviously, no. The enemy standing on the wall not only used the long whips, or long tails, grown on their bodies to whip our soldiers who tried to climb up the wall with a human ladder, but also sprayed venom and acid from their mouths to poison and corrode our soldiers, causing them to fall off the wall in pain. In this way, they climbed up and were beaten down again and again, one after another, and the cycle repeated. No matter how many human ladders you built and how many soldiers climbed up, they were all beaten down. Some lucky ones happened to climb over the wall and rolled into the wall, but were quickly surrounded by the enemy inside and were finally beaten to death. After suffering more than one-third of the casualties of 170,000 to 180,000 bacterial soldiers, Alang saw that the attack was really hopeless, so he withdrew with his Suicide Squad. With a trepidation, Alan went to Cat's Eyes to report and apologize, but he was not punished. He was grateful and said that he was willing to go through fire and water for Cat's Eyes in the future. However, Cat's Eyes asked Alan to be ready to lead all his troops to attack the enemy's position from the place just now at midnight tonight. No matter victory or defeat, they must persist until dawn tomorrow. No mistake, one sentence, one post, one content. 1619, one book, one bar, look. After Alan left without knowing what was going on, Cat's Eyes immediately called his trusted subordinates and issued instructions in this way. In the middle of the night, Alan once again followed the orders of his superiors and launched a fierce attack on the enemy from the position during the day. Knowing that this was a feint attack, Alan sent 50,000 to 100,000 troops each time to attack the enemy for half an hour, and then replaced them with other troops of the same number to take over and attack for another half an hour, and repeated this until dawn. At the same time, Cat's Eye led 2 other siege teams consisting of 5 million special police and reserve troops each, and quietly went around the left and right wings of the enemy. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 291 Disasters. When they arrived at the enemy's deep trench, the soldiers quietly pushed the oil from the edge of the trench into the trench, filling it up and creating the necessary conditions for the troops to attack the city. The activities of our bacterial soldiers filing the trench in the middle of the night were not discovered by the enemy sentinels for the following 2 reasons. First, because of Alang's frontal night attack, it once again attracted the full attention of the enemy, and the movement there was so loud that it even drowned out the sound of filing here. Second, it was the middle of the night, and the 2 moons in the sky had also hidden in the thick clouds. It was pitch black everywhere, and the enemy sentinels could hardly see our army. Therefore, except for a few enemy soldiers who looked at the place where Ling was attacking, the rest of the enemy soldiers were almost all sleeping soundly. Taking advantage of this opportunity, our soldiers quietly filled the trench, then crossed the trench, secretly set up a human ladder, touched the city wall, and immediately knocked down the enemy sentry who was sleeping on the city wall, so that the enemy soldiers went to see the King of Hell in their dreams. Removing the enemy sentries on the city wall was equivalent to opening a gap. As the follow-up troops continued to pour into the city wall, the gap became larger and larger, and the surprise troops on the left and right wings sent by Cat's Eye were successful. When the enemy commander who was defending the city knew about it, the enemy camp had already heard shouts of killing. At this time, the enemy troops who were resisting the charge of Ling's troops saw that our army had already entered the city from the left and right wings. They panicked and their morale plummeted. Soon, they gave up resistance and turned around and ran back. Ling's mercenaries saw that the enemy soldiers had escaped, and they were overjoyed, so they immediately began to track and pursue the enemy soldiers. When Ling heard the shouts of killing in the enemy city, he also understood what was going on and immediately ordered all the troops to rush up. Under the three-way siege of our army, how could the enemy defender resist? Their camp collapsed and soon they scrambled to escape. After chasing and killing the remaining enemies, our army finally completely captured the enemy's temporary castle before dawn. According to rough statistics, 3.2 million enemies were killed, 2.4 million enemies were captured, and countless food and various equipment and materials were seized. Our army also lost about 1.3 million, of which 900,000 were Ling's mercenaries. After breakfast, all officers and soldiers set out again and moved forward. Unexpectedly, this time, God no longer helped, and it rained heavily. All the soldiers were either soaked in rainwater or splashed into the air by water droplets, and were absorbed by the water mist and dust in the air, and stayed on those dust aircraft carriers surrounded by water vapor and extremely wet. In other words, in the heavy rain, Cat's Eye was forced to form an air force. This heavy rain actually caused Feifei's army of bacteria to freeze to death or die of illness. After the rain stopped and the rainbow appeared, Cat's Eye gathered the team and selected the soldiers who were not sick and healthy. They looked for all kinds of food everywhere, and after eating and drinking enough, they continued on the road. A few days later, the endless sea blocked the army's way. This small piece of water, which was only the size of a human palm, became an endless sea in the eyes of these bacteria. Cat's Eye was at a loss for what to do and had to order the army to retreat a considerable distance from the sea, then set up camp and build trenches, walls and other defensive fortifications. How to cross the sea is the most troublesome problem for Cat's Eye now. However, this is not impossible to solve, but it must rely on the sky, not on its own strength. Either the sky will be clear for a few days to dry up the sea, or a breeze will blow along the direction of the sea and blow this army of bacteria across this sea. Apart from these two possibilities, it seems that there is no way to cross this sea. Sure enough, the sky follows the people's wishes. For 2 consecutive days, the sun was bright and the sun actually dried up this endless sea, allowing Feifei's bacteria army to set off smoothly again. This time, Alan took the initiative to ask Cat's Eye to lead its mercenaries as a pioneer. After repeated requests, Cat's Eye finally agreed. So Alan danced with joy and went down to gather the team. For the first time, he served as the vanguard of this army and marched forward with great strides. Cat's Eye simply placed the most elite special police troops at the end, and the largest number of reserve troops in the middle. The army walked for several days, and a huge mountain blocked the way again. Could it be that the army had to climb over this mountain again? Unexpectedly, the scouts who went to explore the way came back and reported that the mountain ahead was full of dense enemy troops, estimated to be at least 30 to 40 million. It turns out that the main force of the enemy is waiting for us here. It seems that the final decisive battle is about to come, Feifei couldn't help thinking, and then, he suddenly realized something, and immediately asked Cat's Eye to order, "Messenger, pass the order to me immediately." The rear team becomes the front team, the front team becomes the rear team, and retreat immediately. After the messenger ran down, not long after, the troops turned around and began to evacuate in an orderly manner. But just when our army was about to completely disappear from the enemy's sight, suddenly, the enemy army on the mountain began to move, and suddenly launched an attack on our army, pressing down on our army with an overwhelming force. No mistake, one poem, one post, one content, one book, one bar, Take a look. Our army's rear team, which was the front team just now, was suddenly panicked and in chaos. The soldiers crowded and trampled on each other. Seeing this, Cat's Eyes immediately ordered the front team, the rear team just now, to run forward at the fastest speed, running towards a large canyon not far to the left. Faster, faster, faster. Try to seize the high ground on both sides of the canyon as soon as possible. The sunlight faded, gradually moving westward and dimming, and was cut into pieces by the evening clouds. Just at dusk, the rear team of Cat's Eyes, the special police force, finally arrived at the mouth of the canyon panting, and then they split into two groups without stopping to seize the cliffs on both sides of the canyon. Although they were exhausted and out of breath, everyone still had no complaints and started to climb the mountain desperately. It was really a time-tested heroic unit. When the special police troops completely occupied the highlands on both sides of the canyon, most of the Cat's Eyes troops, the reserve troops and mercenaries, had been chased into the Grand Canyon by the enemy. At this time, the mercenaries as the rear team had almost been eliminated and dispersed by the vicious enemy. Even the leader of this team, A Leng, had died in the battle. Only a small number of them ran into the Grand Canyon. The largest number of reserve troops also suffered a great impact. About 1/3 of the soldiers were pushed and trampled by the mercenaries behind them, causing countless deaths and injuries, and some were killed by the enemy who chased them like a whirlwind. It seemed that all along the way, there were fragmented bodies of the Cat's Eyes bacteria army that were killed or trampled to death, and the corpses were flowing everywhere, which was horrible. Chapter 292, Possessed Fleece. At this time, two moons, one large and one small, rose in the sky. With the bright moonlight, the brutal enemy would never give up their crazy pursuit. Even if they chased us into the canyon, they would still pursue us and kill us wantonly. Seeing that the enemy was about to chase us out of the canyon, Cat's Eye decisively ordered the special police soldiers ambushed on the cliffs on both sides of the canyon to throw dust and other substances at the enemy pursuers in the canyon, and at the same time ordered the reserve army, who were only concerned about escaping, to turn around and prevent the enemy soldiers from jumping out of the canyon. The flying dust was too light and could not fall for a long time. It could not cause any harm to the enemy pursuers, let alone destroy this group of enemy soldiers. Could it be that bacteria and other microorganisms could not set an ambush to destroy the enemy like humans? What should I do? What should I do? This is the biggest and most troublesome problem Feifei has encountered since entering the microscopic world. Just when Cat's Eyes was in agony and helpless, suddenly, a huge black shadow fell from the sky and fell into the canyon, almost filing it up and ruthlessly crushing all the enemy pursuers in the canyon. Wow! Could it be that God is helping me? This is too awesome. Can I also crush the enemy outside the canyon with these two moves and crush all the enemy to death? That would be perfect. Feifei's soul, awakened from the mind of Cat's Eyes, thought so. But just when Feifei was daydreaming, suddenly, Cat's Eyes felt that the surroundings were shaking violently, sand and rocks were flying, the ground was shaking, and at the same time, there were shrill cries like mountains and tsunamis. What on earth was going on? In the blink of an eye, Feifei woke up from his astonishment and confusion. He thought, this monster beast that fell from the sky is very likely a very small creature in the macroscopic world, but it looks extremely huge to us microorganisms. It may have fallen here for some accidental reason, and now it wants to leave here. What should I do? After a pause, he immediately made a decision. Yes, I must seize this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to return to the macroscopic world. But how many tiny souls should I release to control the brain of this monster? Let's release 1,000 to try first, and if it doesn't work, let's release 10,000. Anyway, I estimate that I can release 5 or 6 million at most. It took Feifei only about 2 seconds to make this important decision, and then he took action immediately. It was said that it was too late, and it was so fast that Feifei's 1,000 tiny souls entered the head of the monster in an instant. The monster suddenly felt confused and thought that it might be too high blood pressure or low blood sugar or vertigo or some other reason. It never thought that someone wanted to control it and replace it. At this moment, the beast was still in the dark. It was still struggling desperately to pull out the big toe that was stuck in the canyon. It was now using all its strength. Unexpectedly, after sending out 1,000 tiny souls, there was still no reaction. If it still couldn't control the beast, then let's try 10,000. This time, Feifei completely controlled the monster. Then, he moved its head, chest, abdomen, back, thighs. When he moved his toes, he found that something was stuck. He looked down hurriedly and saw that his toes were blocked by his big belly. The moonlight was dim and he couldn't see clearly. So he kicked his toes back hard. With a click, a piece of soil fell down. It felt a little loose. He kicked it twice more and quickly pulled out his toes. Then he couldn't help but do a habitual action, squatting down, then suddenly standing up, kicking his feet back. Suddenly, he was shocked. Wow! It flew up, so high, 1,000 times higher than its own body. It was like riding the clouds, but why couldn't it see any clouds? Isn't this a flea? It turned out that this huge beast in the eyes of bacteria was just a pitifully small flea. Well, although it was a little small, it was still an animal. Feifei was finally relieved to be able to return to the macroscopic world. Now, Feifei kept jumping and jumping, and he was so happy. He wanted to sing loudly, thinking, and he really sang. The sea laughs, the tides on both sides are surging, ups and downs follow the waves, remember today. The sky laughs, the tides of the world are surging, who will lose and who will win, only God knows. The river flows eastward, and the stars in the sky are the Big Dipper. Where you fall, you get up from there, born with unruly, chivalrous and domineering. Let's go when we say we will, you have everything. Crossing the desert oasis, walking all over China, the banner of righteousness hangs high in my heart. When I see injustice, I roar, and I take action when it is time to take action, rushing through the 9 states. Heavy as Mount Tai or light as a feather, even if I am declared defeated, I will not be a caged bird. Aiairaya, 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 swallowing thousands of miles like a tiger with golden weapons and iron horses. When I see injustice, I roar, and I take action when it is time to take action, rushing through the 9 states. The river flows eastward, carrying the judgment of justice, and fighting for victory. With integrity, I strive to hold up the sails that lead to the other side. Let's go when we say we will go, and I would rather fight in the wasteland than be a slave. Mount Tai is rugged and unpredictable, and I will not turn back in the water or fire. No mistakes in one poem, one post, one content, one book, one forum, 1/6, 1/9, one book, one forum, one look. From the south to the north, from the Yellow River to Liangshan, I never bend my back, never suppress my chivalrous spirit. Facing the enemy's army, crushing all opponents, letting ugliness be trampled under the feet of justice, a hero will not fall easily. The vast sea laughs, the mist and rain are far away, the waves are washed away. How much do you know about the world of mortals? The breeze laughs, but it causes loneliness, and the heroic spirit is left with a piece of evening light. The vast sea laughs, the tides on both sides are surging, floating and sinking with the waves, remembering today. The breeze laughs, the tides of the world are one after another, who will lose and who will win, only God knows. Sister, you go forward boldly, go forward, don't look back. The road to heaven is 9,909. Sister, you go forward boldly, go forward, don't look back. From now on, you set up the red embroidered building and throw red embroidered balls. It hits my head, let's drink a pot of red sorghum wine, red sorghum wine. Sister, go forward boldly, go forward. Don't look back. After singing the song, Feifei composed another nursery rhyme for the flea. The flea likes to jump. 1 jump wakes up from his sleep. 2 jumps wake up and cry. 3 jumps want to take a nap. 4 jumps are just fooling around. 5 jumps want to report. 6 jumps go to school again. 7 jumps think study is too boring. 8 jumps always sing out of tune. 9 jumps fall in love with blowing bubbles. 10 jumps love to play and laugh, and finally becomes a joke. Chapter 293 High Jump Champion. The champion of high jump in nature is undoubtedly fleas. Doing high jump every day, the body must be strong and the food is delicious, so it is natural that it is an athlete. Then Feifei couldn't help but think again, since I have decided to return to the macroscopic world, I will give up my army of bacteria now and let them fend for themselves. Thinking of this, he began to recycle the tiny souls stored in the bacteria and condensed them all in the brain of this little flea. From now on, he will start to manage his flea career wholeheartedly. Thinking about it, suddenly there was a bang sound, and his head actually hit a somewhat soft black pillar. He hurriedly used his hands and feet to hug this pillar as thick as a big tree. It seemed just right to hold it tightly with 6 hands and feet. Feifei looked up at the top of the pillar he was holding. Wow! My God, what kind of monster is this? A large black area, like a deep black forest, endless, and there is no end in sight. Otherwise, let's jump up and take a look to see what kind of monster it is. Yes, let's take a look. With a bang, Feifei jumped up high and climbed up the mountain. Hey! It's so exciting. Being a flea is really great. Climbing a mountain is just like walking on flat ground, easy and free, which is unimaginable for humans. After just a few jumps, Feifei came to the top of the mountain. When he jumped down and hugged a black soft pillar, no, it should be a black hair. He couldn't help but look at the top of the mountain. Suddenly, he was shocked. Wow! Isn't this red hair Daddy? Blinked, raised his head, looked up again, and looked carefully. It turned out that the facial features of this monster were too big to be seen clearly. Only its lips were very similar to red-haired Daddy, but its nose and eyes were not very similar. However, it was basically certain that this was a chimpanzee, or a male chimpanzee. Chimpanzee, not bad. I might as well decide my next career path to be that of this chimpanzee. Why not give it a try now? With such a plan in mind, Feifei no longer hesitated. He kicked his legs and jumped towards the nose of the big chimpanzee. With a bang, he actually jumped onto the lower lip of the chimpanzee. He jumped again, but this time he jumped onto the forehead of the chimpanzee. Oh my god! Why is my high jump technique so bad? Should I practice more? So he jumped several more times, paying attention to the key points of the movements. Soon, he could jump wherever he wanted, almost exactly. Feifei felt that these jumps of fleas were quite physically demanding. Now he felt a little hungry and seemed to want to drink blood, no, to suck blood. Suddenly, he remembered that fleas, like mosquitoes and leeches, were blood-sucking animals. From now on, I will suck the blood of this chimpanzee desperately, so as to anger this guy and make him slap me to death with his palm, so that I can control and replace his soul. This is a good idea. How can I know if it works if I don't try it? Without any hesitation, Feifei jumped onto the eyelids of this giant beast, and then inserted his needle-like mouth into the eyelids that were thicker than Feifei's body, and began to suck blood desperately. Wow! What a fragrant and sweet blood! It tastes much better than the pig blood and chicken blood I used to eat when I was a human. It's really delicious. Did my taste change after I became a flea? It must be like this, just like when I was a dog. I wanted to eat shit. It's really amazing. What kind of animal you are, what kind of taste you have. Feifei is really imagining at this moment. Well, stop thinking about it, eat and drink quickly, and do business. I snorted and snorted, I drank and snorted, hey, I'm full, I've had enough, I've burped. Why didn't this guy react much? Just blinked a few times. What's going on? Has this guy gotten used to it? No, we can't just let this cunning guy go so easily. What should I do? Yes, go find other partners, let's deal with it together. I don't believe it still doesn't care. About an instant of time, Feifei found hundreds of fleas in the hair of this chimpanzee, which surprised him. However, when he invited them to deal with the chimpanzee together, they found all kinds of excuses to refuse. One said, I haven't woken up yet, don't disturb me. Go find someone else. The other said, eating anywhere is not eating. Why should I go to eat with you? Am I sick? No mistake. One post, one content, one book, one forum, 1619, one book, one forum, one look. Feifei was so angry that she didn't know where to vent her anger. She thought, great. You guys, don't blame me for being cruel. With a frown on her face and a thought in her mind, she distributed her soul. The tiny souls that were once 10,000 entered the brains of these disobedient fleas one after another, quickly controlling them and turning them into hundreds of herself. Then, according to her own ideas, Feifei divided these hundreds of fleas into 5 teams, each with at least 100 fleas, and took turns to launch continuous attacks on the eyes and nose of the chimpanzee. As expected, Feifei's rogue method finally succeeded in angering the chimpanzee, forcing it to wave its hands and constantly touch or shake off the fleas stuck on its facial features and face. Feifei's new stand and hundreds of fleas suffered countless casualties, but they were not completely wiped out, and dozens of fleas were only slightly injured. Then, they attacked the chimpanzee one last time. The few dozen fleas that were left actually got into the chimpanzee's nostrils and used their needle-like mouths to poke holes all over the inner membrane of its nostrils, making the chimpanzee itch. Suddenly, with a sound of "aki," the chimpanzee sneezed loudly, knocking out all of Feifei's naughty fleas. Some of the last few dozen fleas fell into the weeds, Some fell into the stagnant water, and some fell into the soil. Those who didn't die had shed their skin, and those who were alive were all dying. However, what annoyed Feifei was that his soul still couldn't enter the chimpanzee's brain. At this moment, a voice seemed to come from the air, which sounded very much like the voice of humans on this planet. You must complete your flea career, and you can't take shortcuts or cut corners. Do you understand? Wow. That's it. After hearing this voice, Feifei was discouraged and completely gave up. It seems that these aliens are too serious and rigid in doing things, and they are very smart and can't be fooled. I'd better start my flea career honestly. Thinking of this, Feifei had no choice but to give up now. Chapter 294, talking about drinking water. Since we are going to start our flea life, we must understand and study the flea's diet and daily life. First, let's take a look at the flea's eating habits. Fleas are parasites that usually live in the hair of mammals. They are also typical vampires that live by sucking blood from animals. Since Feifei was born as a flea, he obviously felt that he only wanted to drink the blood of animals and didn't want to eat or drink anything else. However, after eating and drinking several times, he found some subtle differences. The blood on the chimpanzee's nose, chin, neck, back, belly and armpits was thicker and saltier. After sucking the blood from these parts, he felt thirsty and wanted to drink some water to quench his thirst. At this time, he had to jump off the chimpanzee and go to the wild bushes to find water to drink. However, if he sucked blood from a few thin-skinned areas such as the eyelids and cheeks of the chimpanzee, he would find that the blood there was lighter, not too salty, and had a moderate taste, and he would not feel thirsty. In this way, he would not have to climb mountains and wade through water to find water to drink. After discovering this secret, Feifei often took care of the eyelids and cheeks of the chimpanzees. Although the blood on his fingers was also good, it was life-threatening to go there, and rarely went to other places. Secondly, regarding the housing issue, this is a bit complicated. Relatively speaking, the armpits and crotch of chimpanzees are warm and safe, but if the weather is very hot, they still have to live in a cool place. At this time, the hair on the top of the chimpanzee's head and shoulders is relatively cool. At present, Feifei does not want to dominate or start a war, so he only uses his soul to control 3 strong male fleas, commonly known as the 3 brothers. The 3 brothers are united and friendly, helping each other, sharing weal and woe, being of one mind and one heart, and making progress together, just like real brothers. On this day, the 3 brothers sucked blood from the chimpanzee's cheek and ate, enjoying the beautiful life and being extremely happy. Suddenly, 3 chubby female fleas jumped out from under the hairy chin of the big chimpanzee. Maybe because they are heavier, they can't jump very high, almost like Australian kangaroos, a little clumsy, but also a little cute. Feifei felt strange, thinking that these 3 female fleas were coming to grab territory with the 3 brothers, so the 3 brothers all stopped eating and stared at the 3 uninvited guests without blinking, to see what they wanted to do. Unexpectedly, the 3 female fleas came to them and stopped. One of the big female fleas said, "What are you 3 doing? Are you eating here? It's eating, so what? Are we getting in your way?" One of the brothers said unconvinced. "Fool, you're not in the way," the female flea said in a gentle and persuasive manner, "but don't you know that the blood in this place has no nutrition? Looking at the way you look, I know that you are particularly lacking in nutrition now." I think the 3 of them not only look like monkeys, but also stupid. Another female flea took the opportunity to mock. "You are stupid, your whole family is stupid," the brother retorted angrily. "Who are you calling stupid? If you piss me off, I will twist your head off and kick it like a ball." The female flea who made the sarcastic remarks got angry. "We are not stupid, please calm down first." Another brother came out to smooth things over and said, "Sister, please tell me why the blood in this place has no nutrition. Is there any need to explain this?" The big female flea who spoke first raised her head proudly and said, "We never suck blood to eat in such places. Look at us, we are all fat, but you are all skinny. Isn't this proof? What you said makes sense." The brother who tried to smooth things over said sincerely, "But do you know why we have to eat here?" "Why?" the big female flea said disdainfully. "It's just that my brain is confused. That's because the orangutan blood in our area is not salty or greasy, and you won't feel thirsty after sucking it." The old brother didn't mind the female flea's contempt, and continued to explain patiently, "On the contrary, the blood in the place where you eat is very salty and greasy. After eating, your throat will be dry and you just want to drink water. But finding water is a very hard job, and we don't want to do such a thing. So, we eat here. Do you understand? Wow. So that's how it is. The big female flea suddenly realized, I was wondering why I always felt a burning throat and dry mouth after eating. It turns out that there is something wrong with the orangutan blood there. However, we have also found a way to deal with thirst. Hey, what method? Can you tell us? We can also learn from you, the good-tempered old man asked humbly. The method is, the big female flea spoke slowly. Sister, don't tell them, the angry female flea still said indignantly. Why should we tell them our precious secret? Humph. I just want to see them anxious. Second sister, don't be so stingy. If there's anything good, we should take it out and let everyone share it. The big female flea lowered her voice and said quietly, don't you often yell that you want to find a husband? I think the three of them are good. Maybe this is a good opportunity. The three of them are a good match for the three of us. Well, then all right. I want to see what kind of stuff they are. Humph. The female flea's second sister, the second one, paused, and finally gave in. Then, the big mother flea talked to the three brothers. In fact, we three sisters only drink water twice a day at most. The first time is in the morning when the giant beast just wakes up. It will automatically open the gate and release a steaming hot waterfall of water. Although this water is not as clear and tasteless as rainwater and river water in the wild, it is relatively turbid and has a pungent fishy smell. But at least we have gotten used to it. At this time, Feifei immediately understood that the hot water she was talking about was naturally the chimpanzee's morning urine. She couldn't help but want to laugh, but at this time, she had to hold it back. The big female flea didn't find anything wrong and continued, the second time is when the giant beast eats during the day. Its huge lips often ooze saliva with the taste of fruit juice from the mountains. The water from the mouth of this giant beast has a fruity aroma, sweet and delicious, oily but not greasy. It is not as hard to drink as the big wave of hot water in the morning, but the quantity is very small. Sometimes, the three of us sisters have to compete with other female fleas we don't know. Therefore, it is difficult for the three of us sisters to get the second drink of water every day. We can only rely on the first drink of water in the morning. The amount is sufficient, but the taste is much worse. However, we have finally survived now. Chapter 295 Reincarnation as a Turtle. After hearing what the three sisters said, Feifei fell into deep thought. With a body size more than twice ours, they must have a much larger appetite than us. If they drank the light chimpanzee blood like us, they would have been starving. Maybe they can only live according to their existing habits. After all, they eat a lot and drink a lot. If they don't drink water one day, they will definitely not be able to bear it. And we can't live like them. Just drinking chimpanzee urine in the morning is difficult. It seems that the three of us brothers and the three sisters will definitely not be destined to be together. Unexpectedly, the big female flea said to the three brothers with a smile, "We three sisters think you three brothers are pretty good. We want to make friends with you. Do you want to?" Seeing the expectant look on the big female flea's face, Feifei had to let one of the brothers perfunctorily say, "Well, let me make it clear that we can make friends, but we can't talk about love." "Oh, you are actually showing off," the big female flea said with great dissatisfaction. "The three of us sisters are friends with the three skinny monkeys of you because we think highly of you. Don't be ungrateful. Do you know that the three of us sisters have always been the three sisters in this giant forest? There are so many male fleas pursuing the three of us sisters, and the long queue can easily circle the giant beast more than 10 times. Humph. If I lied to you, I'm not a female flea. If it's really like what you said, then I've really broadened my horizons," one of the brothers said without any belief. "Big sister, it hurts my self-esteem. Let's go," the third of the three flea sisters said angrily. "Little sister, don't be impatient. You can't eat hot tofu if you are impatient." After the eldest female flea patiently comforted the third child, she turned around and said to the three brothers, "Believe it or not, it's up to you. We can get along for a while and see what happens." In this way, the three brothers began to get along with the three sisters of the mother flea. Because the living habits of the three brothers and the three sisters are quite different, there are constant conflicts and quarrels between them. They also hold their own opinions and refuse to give in to each other. It is really a small quarrel every day and a big quarrel every 3 days. Finally, everyone had to break up and separate. Since the three sisters left, the three brothers have returned to the quiet days before, and their lives are dull. In the evening of that day, the wind suddenly blew, and soon it started to rain. The big chimpanzee suddenly started and ran into the cave. Living in the chimpanzee's hair, the three brothers felt like sitting in a huge high-speed train carriage running at high speed, rushing and lightning. So cool, it's really wonderful. Since then, every time before a heavy rain, the three brothers would take a super high-speed train. They really love this feeling. With the arrival of summer, the weather is getting hotter and hotter. The sun is like a huge fireball, shooting at the earth. In the hot summer afternoon, the heat is so hot that it makes people dizzy. The heat is the earth that has been exposed to the scorching sun, and even a breeze brings an unbearable heat wave. Animals, like humans, can't stay in the wild. They either hide in caves or jump into streams and rivers to enjoy the comfortable feeling brought by the cool water. The chimpanzee that the three flea brothers parasitized suddenly thought that taking a bath in the river was a good idea today, so he started a super high-speed train again, but this time the terminal was not a cave, but a small river nearby. In a blink of an eye, the giant beast came to the river, raised his eyebrows, and dived into the stream. At this point, it was comfortable and happy, but its neighbors the fleas were in trouble. They were either drowned or washed away by the river, and it was difficult for them to return to their hometown, the chimpanzee, to live. The three brothers that Feifei was entrusted with naturally could not escape the bad luck. They were all washed away by the river. Seeing that the three brothers were dying, Feifei was very anxious, because at this moment they had been washed far away by the chimpanzee by the river, and it was probably beyond his ability to transfer his soul to the chimpanzee. What should I do? Am I really going to become a lonely ghost? Just when the three flea brothers were about to return to heaven, Feifei suddenly found a turtle swimming slowly not far from the river. Alice. This time he had to become a turtle. At this point, there was no time to hesitate. Just before the three brothers took their last breath, Feifei gathered all of his millions of tiny souls and threw them all into the turtle 7 or 8 meters away from him. He successfully entered the turtle's brain and finally completely controlled it. From then on, Feifei would start his turtle career again. It was like a nightmare. Although he had now become a turtle floating in the water and swimming slowly, Feifei still didn't believe it was true, just like when he first became the coronavirus. Such bizarre and frequent reincarnations really made Feifei a little puzzled. After all, he had been a male dog and a female fox for a long time before. Why were these few times so short? It seemed that this was indeed a bit unacceptable to him. Especially this time when he reincarnated into a flea, it suddenly ended before he made any achievements, and he hadn't yet reincarnated into the chimpanzee he was optimistic about, which made him feel frustrated. He had no choice but to reincarnate into a turtle this time. If there was a better choice, he would not be willing to do this at all. The reason for this is that Feifei has never liked turtles since he was a child. He thinks that turtles are lazy, slow, and have a bad reputation. They are despised animals like turtles. Although turtles are long-lived, can't they be reincarnated now? Therefore, he is not tempted by their longevity at all. Now, he has to be a turtle even if he doesn't want to. This is the choice made by fate. There is no room for bargaining. Just accept it calmly. Swimming, swimming. Suddenly, Feifei felt a little hungry. What should I eat? He couldn't help thinking. Just now, maybe he was too impatient and forgot to slowly absorb the memory of the turtle's original owner, so that now only his will and memory are left. No mistake, 1 post, 1 content, 1 book, 1 bar, take a look. Feifei remembered that when he was a child, he saw from the video materials of aquatic creatures that turtles like to eat small fish and shrimps. As soon as he thought of this, he immediately sank into the water to look for food. Wow! There are many small and medium-sized fish, medium and large fish, and medium-sized fish in the river, but there are no small fish, let alone shrimps. In a flash of inspiration, Feifei suddenly realized that the water in this small river is flowing, and it is unlikely that there are small fish and shrimps. They can only be found in ponds and streams where the water does not flow much. Hey! Then I will slowly look for ponds and streams. Wait, if I am so slow now, how long will it take to find it? Even if I find it, I may have starved to death. Chapter 296 Turtle Life. No, maybe there will be some food like shrimps at the bottom of the river, so let me sink to the bottom of the river. After reaching the bottom of the river, Feifei didn't look for long before he saw a big river crab lying in the crack of a big rock. So he swam over and asked, "Brother River Crab, do you have any small fish or shrimps around here? You don't have eyes, can't you find them yourself?" The river crab said unhappily. Brother, you also know that we turtles swim slowly, and I haven't eaten for 3 days, so I can't swim anymore, Feifei explained patiently. So, I asked you. Isn't there a saying, with a mouth, you can go everywhere, without a mouth, you will be hungry, brother? I didn't realize that you are so amazing that you can walk with your mouth. Since you are so awesome, then try to walk for me with your mouth. Brother, you misunderstood. When I said with a mouth, you can go everywhere, I meant to use your mouth to ask people, not to really walk with your mouth. Why is your comprehension so poor? Okay. You have a high level of education when asking for directions, you are a stinky old man. I have a low level, I am a rough man, okay. Then I don't know anything, you go find it yourself, sorry. I apologize to you, is this okay? May I ask if there are any small fish and shrimps around here, Brother Hexy? That's more like it. You are a turtle asking for directions. You must be modest and cautious at all times. Remember that you are a turtle. You must be a turtle who hides his head all your life. You must not stand out unless you are asked to. Do you understand? Well, what did you ask me just now? I am a turtle who hides his head. I want to ask you if there are any small fish and shrimps to eat around here. Feifei had to swallow her anger and repeat it again. Ah. You also eat small fish and shrimps. So you are trying to steal food from me. Then I tell you, there are no small fish and shrimps you are looking for here, around here, or even in the entire riverbed. If you want to steal food from me, you are still naive. Thank you. I know. It's really there is no silver here. Haha, Feifei laughed at the angry river crab, and then turned and left. Thinking of the silly look of the big rough man just now, Feifei couldn't help laughing in his heart. Feifei immediately began to look for food everywhere. Looking, finding a small shrimp, eating you, smiling, I will fill my stomach. While singing, he searched carefully. After a long while, Feifei finally dug out a small shrimp from the thick mud at the bottom of the river, and then swallowed it eagerly. Searching, eating, searching. Gradually, Feifei became more and more experienced, more and more knowledgeable, and more handy. In this way, Feifei found and ate a dozen shrimps and 2 small fish, and then he was full, then floated to the surface of the river and swam to the river bank. Through this foraging, Feifei found that shrimps were slow to move and react, even worse than himself, the turtle, while fish were flexible and reacted quickly, making it difficult to catch them. Almost every time, Feifei suddenly stretched out his turtle claws and slapped the fish to death or knock it unconscious before he could eat the fish. It was very difficult. However, Feifei also summed up a set of turtle hunting methods, which is surprise and surprise. In other words, it is to make a sneak attack, not to do it openly. Floating along the riverbank makes Feifei feel very comfortable, especially when he is full and satisfied. It is a kind of enjoyment to swim leisurely. It seems that being a turtle is not a bad thing. Maybe I have misunderstood animals like turtles and tortoises before. In fact, they also enjoy life. I guess every animal has its own happy way of life. I don't know how long I swam in the river when I saw a group of wild ducks playing in the water and looking for food. Feifei found it interesting, so he swam over and said in duck language, "Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I want to ask you something. What is the most delicious thing in the world?" "Of course it's the small fish, Mr. Turtle," a female duck said naggingly. "Don't you know this common sense?" "Of course I know that small fish are delicious, but," Feifei complained helplessly, "small fish are too smart and hard to catch. If I only eat small fish, I might starve to death one day." "It's precisely because they are hard to catch that they are the most delicious," a male duck said wisely. "That is to say, the things you can't get are the best." "What you said seems to make some sense," Feifei said with deep conviction. "It seems that I can only be a miserable turtle." "Alice, brother, why do you have to give up on yourself?" the male duck said attentively. "In fact, we are similar to you. We rarely catch small fish. Most of the time, we eat other aquatic creatures, such as algae, snail meat and small shrimps, etc. Your food is not much different from mine, so we can be friends," Feifei said happily. "Dream on," a little female duck laughed. "We don't want to be in the same boat with a turtle like you who walks so slowly. Tisk, I'm the birthday star in the animal world. If you stay with me, maybe I can bless you all to live a long life," Feifei said casually. "Really, you turtles can bless us ducks to live a long life if you stay with us ducks," the nagging female duck said half-believingly. "Of course, I can read faces and tell fortunes. I think as long as you stay with me, you will all be healthy and live long, Feifei boasted desperately. Feifei thought, if I don't brag now, when will I brag? If I want to brag, I'll brag as much as I can. If I don't brag, it's a waste. So I'm going to brag a lot today and give it a try. Wow. You're not a charlatan, are you? The wise drake said in disbelief. I've never heard of this before. As long as we ducks are with turtles, we will be healthy and live long. Then won't you turtles become divine turtles? You're right. I'm the divine turtle you mentioned. Of course, ordinary turtles are definitely not divine turtles, and it's impossible for them to bless you with health and longevity, Feifei said without blushing or beating his heart, and began to brag. Have you all heard of the Ninja Turtles? It is said that a long, long time ago, there was a man who was very tolerant and used to being submissive. He never fought back when he was beaten or scolded, and he always endured it. People scolded him like a coward, and finally he really turned into a turtle, and a 10,000-year-old turtle. So, people praised him as a ninja turtle, and said that as long as they are with it, everyone can be healthy and live long. Ah! There is such a strange thing, the wise drake said in surprise. So, you are this kind of ninja turtle. I don't deserve it. In fact, I'm not qualified yet, Feifei said modestly. I still need to keep learning from the Ninja Turtles and strive to become a Ninja Turtle as soon as possible. Chapter 297 Encounter with Crocodile. After all this fuss, it turns out that you are not a Ninja Turtle, the wise drake said dissatisfiedly. Then what you just said about blessing us ducks with health and longevity is just bullshit. Why is it bullshit? Feifei pretended to be angry and said, although I am not a Ninja Turtle, I am at least a turtle. What makes you say you are a turtle? The wise drake pointed out bluntly. Except for talking nonsense, I think you are no different from an ordinary turtle. Hey, men, you can't insult others like this, Feifei said pretentiously. How old are you this year? Do you want me to tell your fortune first? You can tell fortunes, brother. I don't believe it. The wise drake was very suspicious. Are you trying to play some tricks again? How can you say it's a ghost trick? This is a serious job for people, okay? Feifei continued to deceive. Believe it or not, I can also read fortunes. I just observed your face and found that you will have a disaster this year. If you don't avoid it in time, I'm afraid your life will be in danger. Don't scare me. I'm not afraid of fear, the wise drake said indignantly. You are a ghost guy who only knows how to cheat and deceive people. You are not a good person. I, old duck, will ignore you. I'll leave first. You're not listening to the old people and suffering in the end. Just wait and see, the disaster may be here soon, Feifei said, looking up at the sky, like a real fortune teller. As if God wanted to prove the correctness of his words, suddenly, a duck sentinel shouted, oh no! The crocodile is coming. Everyone run! Feifei couldn't help laughing when he heard it. Look, what did I just say? Now it's come true. Hey! You still have the nerve to say that? You're a disaster star. I'm unlucky to meet you today. After scolding Feifei, the wise drake turned around and shouted to the ducks, everyone, run for your life. Run as fast as you can, run as far as you can. Run quickly. Before he finished speaking, he turned around and fled. In the blink of an eye, a large group of ducks around Feifei disappeared without a trace, but he himself was still wandering here leisurely. At this moment, a splashing sound of splash, 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 came from far to near. In the blink of an eye, a very large crocodile suddenly emerged from the water, came to Feifei, opened its bloody mouth, and said, hey, turtle grandson, did you see a group of ducks? Feifei turned his head to look at the crocodile, without making a sound, paused, turned his head again, paddled briskly, and prepared to leave here. Hey, ursine grandson. Are you dumb? After taking a breath, the crocodile threatened again, if you don't say anything, I will eat you. If you are not afraid of the turtle shell biting your teeth, then you can eat it, Feifei said to the crocodile with a stern look. Hey, is there really someone in this world who is not afraid of death? The crocodile said angrily, if you make me angry, I will swallow you whole. If you are not afraid of getting a stomach disease, it's up to you. Feifei refused to surrender. Hey, you are really a tough guy, the crocodile sighed heavily and compromised. I haven't met a hero as tough as you for a long time. I admire you. Brother, why don't you want to answer my question just now? Who told you to be so rude and start scolding right away? You are so uneducated. I don't bother to pay attention to you, Feifei explained. It's because I am the boss of this river. No one dares to provoke me. I yell at anyone I see. This habit has been formed a long time ago. I am afraid it will be difficult to change it in the future. I am sorry to make fun of you, the crocodile said embarrassedly. Look, you have changed, Feifei also said kindly. As long as you are willing to change, it is never too late, really. You are right. I have changed a lot without realizing it, the crocodile thought for a while and said, if I am so kind from now on, those prey-like ducks will not run away when they see me. If you want to eat them, they will definitely run away. Unless you don't eat them, Feifei said honestly. Then what's the point of changing my temper? I don't think it's necessary to change, the crocodile said dejectedly. You can't say that. If you want to make a friend, you must be polite to your friend, Feifei carefully advised. Friend, what is a friend? I really don't know what a friend is. Little brother, can you explain it to me? The crocodile pleaded with a confused look on his face. Brother, you are so pathetic. You have always been alone and don't know what friends are, let alone the importance of friends. That's right, brother, what's the use of friends? They are neither food nor drink nor sleep. Friends can help you solve your problems, relieve your boredom and reduce your mental pressure. When you encounter problems or difficulties, they may help you solve them. Well, according to what you said, friends seem to be a little useful. Of course, they are very useful. For example, after we talked just now, do you feel less lonely? Wow. It seems that what you said is really right. Not only do I not feel lonely now, I don't feel very hungry anymore. It's not like before I met you just now. I was so hungry. This is the power of friends. Do you want to make friends? Feifei took the opportunity to ask. I really do want to. But who would dare to make friends with me when I look so fierce? Aren't you afraid that I will eat them? I dare. Are you willing to make friends with me? Feifei asked sincerely. That would be great. Of course I am willing. But I still don't know what your name is. My name is Feifei. You can call me Feifei or Fei in the future. So, brother, what's your name? When I was a child, my parents passed away before they could name me. However, when I grew up, I heard from other crocodiles that my mother's name was Huadahe. So, I named myself Huagongzi. Feifei couldn't help laughing when he heard it, thinking, what Huagongzi? It's not as good as Huagongzi. I really don't know how to name myself. With a slight smile and a pause, Feifei said, Brother Hua, since we are already friends, you can always come to me if you feel lonely or encounter any problems in the future. If I encounter something that needs your help, I will also come to you without hesitation. How about this? The crocodile frowned, thought for a moment, and finally nodded and said, That's easy, it's settled. I will ask you for help in the future, and you little thing are not allowed to refuse. Did you hear me? Now I feel more and more hungry, I have to go find something to eat, and I can't chat with you anymore. Bye. As soon as the voice fell, he sank into the water, swam away, and began to look for his own food. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 298, Tasty. In the blink of an eye, Feifei's eyes were peaceful again. After thinking for a while, he continued to drift slowly downstream along the river bank. After swimming for a long time, he came to a good place with dense aquatic plants and fragrant daffodils. He couldn't help but stop to appreciate it slowly and enjoy it to his heart's content. Suddenly, a frog jumped out from the dense water plants. It blinked its big eyes, found Feifei, the turtle, and said, Quack, quack, turtle, what are you doing here? Quack. Feifei found it funny and asked back, Why can't I come? Are you so stupid? Quack, 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 turtle, quack. You are so bad, the frog said angrily, Why are you scolding me? Quack, why should I scold you? I just think the question you asked is so stupid, Feifei explained patiently, Where can I go? I go wherever I want. Quack, 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 you can't come here, the frog continued, there are a lot of crocodiles and pythons here. You should leave quickly. Quack, I'm not afraid. The crocodile is my new friend, Feifei said proudly, as for the python, it's nothing great. Quack, 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 you are just bragging. Who would believe it? Quack, the frog didn't believe it at all and reminded, Quack, the python is coming. Quack, run away quickly. Quack, I'm not afraid, quack, Feifei said nonchalantly, I just want to stay here, what can you do to me? Quack, 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 you're a stupid turtle, the frog was very angry, quack, I won't pay attention to you. Quack, as soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and hopped away. Not long after, suddenly, there was a splash of water behind him, which scared Feifei. He thought a python appeared, and turned around to see that it was a big salamander with a green back and a white belly, which was emerging from the water, staring at Feifei without blinking. Seeing this, Feifei turned around and said to the giant salamander, Hey! What do you want to do, man? You made such a big noise just now, and almost scared me to death. What you did is tantamount to killing for money, you know that, why are you so startled, little turtle? The giant salamander counterattacked disapprovingly, you are so useless. Are you scared to death by such a small noise? Is your noise small? Feifei said very dissatisfiedly, wait, why do you call me a little turtle? I'm almost a grandpa or grandma, aren't you just a little turtle in front of me? The giant salamander said complacently, can your short body be bigger than my tall and strong body? Why are you so simple-minded? Feifei said angrily, the size I mentioned refers to age, not body, who can tell age? The giant salamander argued speciously, if I say that I am 800 years old, will you believe it or not? You are talking nonsense, no, you are lying, Feifei said angrily, at such a young age, you have learned to deceive your elders. I am so angry, look, I just said something casually, but you didn't believe it and you are so angry. The giant salamander continued to defend himself, so, you just said that you are about to become a grandparent. I don't believe it either. Who knows if it is just a lie? And only the size of the body is obvious, no one can lie, and you can't deny it. Do you think I am right? Feifei lowered his head and thought carefully. He felt that what this guy said made some sense, but when he thought about it again, he felt that he was at a disadvantage. At this time, Feifei's face looked very good, red, white, blue, and finally red again, so Feifei said to the giant salamander with a red face, you are just making trouble, I won't talk to you anymore. I have something else, I have to go. Before he finished speaking, he turned around and swam towards the river bank. Hey! Little turtle, don't go, the giant salamander shouted behind Feifei, who is bigger between us? You have to show your attitude. No matter how the giant salamander shouted, Feifei ignored it and walked through the deep water plants by the river and climbed towards the river bank. As soon as he climbed ashore and had no time to catch his breath, he saw a big white rabbit jumping out from the grove on the shore. It hopped to the river bank and stretched its head into the water, gulp, 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 and drank the water in big gulps. It seemed that the rabbit was very thirsty. Feifei felt that the big white rabbit was very cute and fun, and wanted to tease it. She immediately sang the rabbit song in the rabbit language without thinking, little rabbit, open the door, open it quickly, I want to come in. Hearing Feifei humming, the big white rabbit who had just finished drinking water was startled and immediately turned his head to Feifei, locking his eyes on Feifei, his red eyes opened wide, his long ears trembled slightly, his mouth opened slightly, and his face was extremely shocked. Seeing the big white rabbit with a silly look on his face, Feifei felt very happy, and the frustration of being defeated by the giant salamander just now was swept away. Now, Feifei was in a very good mood and couldn't help singing the famous rabbit song again. No mistakes in one post, one content, one book, one forum, 1619, one book, one forum, one look. Suddenly, the big white rabbit finally spoke, and it asked hesitantly, Grandpa Turtle, how can you sing our rabbit nursery rhyme? This is really shocking. You really scared me. You must be either a god or a monster, dear big white rabbit, maybe you are half right, Feifei replied, actually, I'm not a god, nor a monster. But I understand a lot of animal languages. You can think of me as half god, or half monster. Otherwise, just call me half turtle, okay, Grandpa half turtle, you can teach me the beautiful rabbit nursery rhyme you just sang, so that I can teach it to my children, okay? No problem, Feifei happily agreed, and then taught the whole song to the caring rabbit mother, and taught her several times until she was fluent in it. The lyrics of this song are as follows. In the song, one person is required to play the role of the big bad wolf, one person is required to play the role of the little white rabbit, and one person is required to play the role of the rabbit mother. Big bad wolf, little rabbit, please open the door, please open it quickly, I want to come in. Little white rabbit, no, 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 I won't open it until my mother comes back. Rabbit mother, little rabbit, please open the door, please open it quickly, I want to come in. Little white rabbit, I will open it, I will open it, my mother is back, I will open the door. From then on, Feifei's nickname of Turtle Half Immortal spread among the rabbits. From then on, whenever Feifei met a rabbit who spoke the rabbit language, the rabbits would respectfully call him Turtle Half Immortal, and some would even sing the rabbit nursery rhyme, Little rabbit, please open the door, please open it quickly. I want to come in. But just when Feifei's life was becoming more and more enjoyable, a huge crisis came quietly. This was something Feifei had never expected. Chapter 299 Riverbank Crisis. Like snakes, turtles are cold-blooded animals. They usually only come out in the summer nights and on cloudy days in spring and autumn. They basically hibernate in caves in winter. It was summer night. Feifei, who had been in the turtle cave for several days, crawled out of the cave and swam to the surface of the water. He wanted to take a breath and find something to eat. After all, he hadn't eaten for many days and felt empty in his stomach. He hadn't swam far along the river when suddenly, a splashing sound of water came from far away and rushed towards Feifei. Feifei turned his head and looked at the place where the sound came from. He was shocked. This sudden guy turned out to be a giant python more than 10 meters long. Feifei was immediately scared and sank into the water in a hurry. Unexpectedly, the giant python moved faster than Feifei. Its long snake tail swept thousands of troops and immediately wrapped Feifei tightly, making it impossible for Feifei to get out. As the giant python wrapped around her tighter and tighter, Feifei's breathing became more and more difficult. Seeing that Feifei was about to die, the giant python suddenly screamed, and Feifei felt the giant python's body gradually loosen its grip on her, and soon she resumed normal breathing. At this moment, the giant python roared, "Hey! Playboy, why are you biting me? You and I have always been mind your own business. Why don't you want me to eat today? What's your intention? If you don't tell me the reason, I'll never let you go." A low voice of a crocodile came immediately. "Brother Shaman, why do you say that? When did I not let you eat?" Feifei understood when he heard it. It turned out that it was the new friend named Playboy who showed up in time and saved her life. She couldn't help but be moved. At this time, the python shouted sternly, "Don't you see that I am strangling this turtle to death? This turtle is my meal tonight." "Oh. So you want to eat this turtle? Why didn't you say so earlier?" The crocodile Playboy pretended to be confused and said, "But I think you should find another food to eat. This turtle shell is too hard. I'm afraid you will have indigestion if you eat it, and it may even hurt your spleen and stomach." "I don't want you to care," the python said arrogantly. "I often eat those land animals, and I'm tired of them. Today I want to change my taste. You care whether I can digest it or not, I will really care today." Unexpectedly, the crocodile Playboy sang a different tune from the python. "As long as you dare to swallow it today, I will bite you to death when you can't walk because of digestion. I have never eaten a python as big as you. I really want to change my taste and try something new." "Oh. I say, Playboy, I have no grudge against you in my past life or in this life. Why do you have to go against me? You have to have a reason for doing things." "Reason? I just can't stand you always bullying small animals." "That's not a reason, absolutely not. Tell me what you really think." "Well, then. I, old Huit, have made friends now and am no longer alone. And this friend is this little turtle brother of Fei." "Ah. Is this true? There is such a thing. It's really like the sun rises in the west. How strange. It's just like a talk at night. What do you think? Now, should you let my little brother go? I really can't believe it. Playboy, if it turns out that he is indeed your brother, then I will definitely let him go." Seeing this, Feifei immediately said, "Playboy, thank you for saving me in time. I will never forget it. I will definitely repay your kindness in the future." "Did you hear that, Brother Shaman? This little turtle has already spoken and proved everything. So I don't need to say anything more, do I?" the crocodile Playboy said complacently. "Of course, once words are spoken, they are like water spilled. I will definitely keep my promise. I'm just curious about how you made friends with this little turtle. Let's not talk about this. Anyway, you are not my friend, so there is no point in telling you. That's not necessarily true. As the saying goes, a smile can end all grudges. Some enemies can become friends, not to mention that there is no grudge between us, so why can't we be friends, really?" If you really want to make friends with me, I am willing to share this secret with you, but I don't know if this little brother is willing. As the saying goes, one more friend means one more way. Feifei didn't want to make an enemy as powerful as the python, so he said, as long as brother Hu is willing, I don't care. Seeing that Feifei had agreed, the crocodile playboy told the python in detail about the last time he met and made friends with Feifei. After hearing this, the python was very surprised and admired Feifei's wisdom. He decided to make friends with Feifei. Seeing this, Feifei took the opportunity to suggest, why don't the three of us become sworn brothers? What is sworn brother? The crocodile playboy asked puzzled. It's the three of us. We will be ranked according to age. The oldest is the eldest brother, the youngest is the youngest brother, and the middle is the second brother. In this way, the oldest python shaman is the eldest, the crocodile playboy is the second, and Feifei is the youngest. From then on, these three cold-blooded animals often gathered by the river to hunt or chat, and their days were leisurely and comfortable. That night, Feifei came to the place where the three brothers usually came, but found that the other two brothers did not come for some reason. After waiting for a long time, there was still no sign of them. He had to wander around alone. When he got tired of playing in the water, he climbed ashore and walked towards the grove by the river. At this moment, the night was dark, and there were almost no other animals except frogs croaking everywhere. Suddenly, a rattlesnake jumped out from the bushes on the left, stared at Feifei for a few times, and then hissing into the bushes and disappeared. Feifei didn't care about it and continued to walk forward. When he was about to enter the grove, he looked into the woods and felt that there were no dangerous animals, so he plunged into the grove and walked straight and without looking back. Of course, he crawled on all fours like other turtles. Midnight fell, and everything was quiet. Except for a few crickets chirping, it seemed that all the wild animals were asleep. Suddenly, 5 shiny black mice jumped out from the bushes deep in the woods. In the blink of an eye, they surrounded Feifei, the reckless turtle. They stared at Feifei with their shiny yellow-green eyes. After a while, one of the black mice shook the whiskers on his mouth and said insidiously, "Send this prey that fell from the sky to our queen." Chapter 300 Trapped in a Rat's Nest. Hey, Captain, let's do it now. As soon as the voice fell, several mice rushed forward. One bit Feifei's neck, and the other 4 each bit one of Feifei's feet and dragged Feifei into the bushes. At first, Feifei tried to break free from the fate of being caught by the mice, but the more he struggled, the more pain he felt. In the end, he had to give up and leave it to fate. In this way, not long after, Feifei was dragged into a mouse hole by these unreasonable black-haired mice. This was an extraordinary mouse hole, located under the roots of a big tree. There were many mice in it, and many thorns and wood thorns were arranged outside the hole. These arrangements can prevent the invasion of dangerous animals such as poisonous snakes and lizards. When Feifei was dragged in, these obstacles were naturally removed by the mice, and after Feifei was dragged into the hole, these arrangements were restored to their original state by the mice. Finally, Feifei was dragged to flat ground in the cave, and several powerful black-haired mice came up. At the command of the mouse leader, they flipped Feifei over, making Feifei's back fall to the ground with his forelegs facing the sky, and then they released Feifei's limbs and head. At this moment, Feifei's vision was completely reversed, and it seemed that all the mice had climbed to the sky. Later, he found that the sky and the ground were full of mice. It turned out that the mice surrounded him and were staring at Feifei's head without blinking. Not long after, Feifei found that the mice near his head scattered to both sides, and a huge gray-white mouse head suddenly emerged from the middle of his head. There were only a few thin and short whiskers on the mouse's mouth, and its 2 eyes were big and round but emitting a watery red light. It said, "This turtle head looks good, I will eat it. The rest of the body belongs to you brothers and sisters." Feifei was frightened when he heard it, and hurriedly shouted in the mouse language, "Wait, my dear brothers and sisters, my meat is too old and not delicious, and it is also highly poisonous. If you are not afraid of poisoning to death, then eat it boldly." "Bullshit, liar, I just bit your foot, and it bled, but how come I'm fine?" "Yes, say it. What else do you have to say?" The mice that dragged Feifei into the hole stood up one after another to refute Feifei's words that deliberately scared them. "This is a slow-acting poison. Just because you are fine now doesn't mean you'll be fine tomorrow. You may fall asleep and never get up again. If you don't believe me, you can try it. All of you go down first. I want to interrogate this cunning guy alone," the gray-white rat said to the rats around. The rats lowered their heads one by one and said to the gray-white rat respectfully, "Yes, Your Majesty." Then, they turned around and left. In a blink of an eye, only the Rat Queen and Feifei, a turtle lying on the ground with his forelegs up, were left in the rat hole meeting room. "Tell me, what kind of monster are you? Why can you speak our rat language and threaten my subordinates with nonsense?" the Rat Queen asked in a low voice. "Your Majesty, I can tell fortunes and read faces. If you don't believe me, you can go to the rabbit group to ask. I also have a nickname, called Turtle Half Immortal, which means that I am half immortal and can know the past and predict the future." Feifei saw the sad face of the Mouse Queen. So she deliberately showed off in front of her. "Are you really good at reading faces and fortune-telling? Then take a look at what the future fate of my mouse tribe will be," the Mouse Queen said half doubtfully. Feifei lay on the ground, moving her forelegs up and down, shaking her head up and down 3 times, and then said, "The situation seems to be very bad. Your mouse tribe may be eaten up by the demons outside in just 2 months. Alice." After a pause, Feifei said calmly, "But you have to let me turn over first, right? Although I am a coward, I still don't want to be a tortoise with its legs up in the air. It's too tiring to talk like that, isn't it? Well, it's okay to let you turn over, but you can't take the opportunity to get away," the Rat Queen said worriedly. "I, Turtle Half Immortal, have always been very trustworthy and will never do anything that is fickle and shabby. You can rest assured. Besides, aren't there a large group of your subordinates at the entrance of your cave? Even if I want to run, I can't run away," Feifei explained patiently. "Then this is the best." After the Rat Queen finished speaking, she turned her head and shouted outside, "Come on, help this Turtle Half Immortal guest turn over." As soon as the voice fell, several black rats crawled in from outside. The big guys turned Feifei over with their hands and feet, and Feifei's body returned to normal. As soon as Feifei turned over, the Rat Queen couldn't wait to drive away the rats that came in to help, and then said to Feifei in a low voice, "Great Immortal, can you finally tell me now?" After a moment of silence, Feifei said casually, "Then you have to tell me the whole story in detail. I can consider the whole story and prescribe the right medicine." "Okay." The Rat Queen had to cooperate with her and then told the whole story. It turned out that the black rats of the Rat Queen were not local rats, but migrated from a relatively far place. At first, the rats in her tribe were very prosperous. At the peak, there were more than 100,000 rats. Later, they encountered disasters one after another. First, they were frequently attacked by natural enemies such as owls, weasels, kites, falcons, eagles, tigers, snakes, leopard cats, and mountain cats, and then there was a plague, which caused the number of rats to drop sharply to the last 4 or 5,000. The Rat King at that time, who is now the father of the Rat Queen, believed that if drastic measures were not taken, his group of rats would surely perish, so he decided to implement long-distance migration. However, on the way to find a new home, they were attacked and harassed by different natural enemies one after another. Many rats were either killed or scared to flee everywhere, suffering heavy losses. When they arrived at this new home, there were less than 1,000 rats left. The Rat King became sick on the way, and he died soon after. Everyone had no choice but to let the Rat King's favorite young female rat inherit the throne, which is the origin of the Rat Queen. After the Rat Queen took office, she also planned to work hard to govern and reform, but not long after she moved in, she encountered a powerful enemy, the Silver Fox. In just 2 months, it ate nearly half of the Queen's subjects, eating 5 or 6 rats a day, and more than a dozen rats. It was really amazing and scary. This is the main reason why the Mouse Queen is so worried. As long as Feifei can help her solve this difficult problem, she will definitely treat him as a guest of honor and serve him carefully. But can Feifei help her solve this problem? End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.